to the kill zone.
I feel the silence chasing me. Shadows follow me everywhere I go. Danger's near, I can feel it.
Say my name, feel that flame. Welcome to the kill zone.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Monday night. Tonight, we give you the coverage of the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. Season 1 has certainly given us some highs and lows, but tonight we get ready for the Lonestar Texas 400, a full-length race, one of the few crown jewel races that they have here for the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. We've got the last race of the season. Those are the final full-length races. Still got a couple of races in between those, but tonight we get ready for race number 12. Once again, excited to give you the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me for this long journey ahead of us is going to be Zach Hall and Robert Moyer Jr. running production in the background. And Zach, certainly should be a good one here tonight. We got 5.5 minutes left in warm-ups before we get to racing action. How are you feeling? How'd you prep for this race here tonight?
Well, definitely brought a good variety of some snacks. You know, you gotta stay very much fed while you're up here, so you can make sure you make very smart comments. Hopefully, do throughout the night because we got a long race here. So I'm gonna run out a things to think of, and I'm sure I gotta have a very smart brain. So gotta have some snacks and also some hydration for water. So make sure even if you're out there watching, you got you something to keep you hydrated. It's always good to stay hydrated. So it's gonna be a fun night, I think, Sam. But yeah, it's definitely a long one, 267 laps, and I think also going to be an interesting one when it comes to strategy. We were kind of talking about this a little bit before it went live, folks, but they're pretty much the same amount of tires available that we would have to our normal league races. So really only 5 total sets here tonight, Sam. This is going to be tough and difficult for these drivers to make the most out of their tires. I think they're definitely going to have that in the back of their mind.
It's going to be a tough night to save those tires. It's going to be a tough night for already wasting our talk. Speaking about talks, TikTok, I want to say thank you to DadBod.Studios on TikTok. That's Justin X. Johnson's TikTok channel. A lot of these drivers found their way over here to the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series because of his live streams over there on TikTok. So again, big thank you to DadBod.Studios. But yeah, no, tonight, certainly going to be a tough one, squeezing in how you can stretch those tires. I think I was calculating the math. They have to go over 50 plus laps on each set of tires. If you're not able to hit that number, you might be in trouble. And if you get in trouble early, forget to unclip your tires, waste the set, you may not be making it to the end of this race with how abrasive these tires are going to be brutalized, because we're doing a full length 267 laps here at the current Texas configuration. And Zach, this configuration is brutal on tires.
No doubt. Yeah, this track always one of the tracks I feel like you can actually kind of make a difference with the tire saving. Some of these tracks we go to, you can't really gilt the spots, but I feel like Texas is actually available to gilt the spots. We've always talked about how nobody's really liked this reconfiguration with what they did the 1 and 2, really widening it out, lowering the banking down here on this end of the racetrack. But I will say, as time has went on, the track has widened out. We've seen that in, of course, the Real Life Cup Series. But even here on iRacing, I've always felt like this track has actually embraced pretty well, because we've kind of been able to make multi-grooves even work here. But I think tires will be an important part. Of course, with only having 5 sets, that will be in the back of their mind. Like you said, going to have to stretch it pretty far on tires every single time. So if you do end up accidentally using a set, it's going to put you in a predicament where one of these times you're probably going to have to run, upwards of 80 to 70 laps on tires. So we'll see how this all plays out. But right now, these drivers just getting the final few tweaks of their line and trying some different things. I've seen some people searching around the racetrack here in the final few moments.
Searching is going to be the right term to use. Searching for how can you find points on top of that. Speaking about points, let's bring up them here tonight. That's going to be a big talking point, I think, for most of the rest of this season, because it is very hotly contested between our top 3 before last week's race. We now have ourselves a new contender into the mix. Went from just 3 being Colin Clairkey, Drew Blaze, and Austin Mice being within 14 points of one another. Now they're within 5 points of each other. And add last week's newest winner, Paul Boomershine, now only 16 points back from the leader. Zach, this is a huge pick me up for Paul Boomershine. The 92 is back into the mix, and after having a 1.5-mile race last week, we could see if you can try to carry that over here at Texas.
Oh man, that's so cool to see how it's closed down here, Sam. This is getting wild now. Added 4 drivers into it. And I mean, we've seen what can happen really if multiple of them get called up together in these incidents. So don't count someone even out like a Don Francesco. We saw Boomershine was 40-something points back at one point, now within only a couple. So it's definitely an interesting time here, but we'll have to see how these points develop as the rest of the season goes on.
It certainly should be a good sign. And talking about the rest of the schedule, let's move on over to the schedule. We only have a handful of races left here at Texas, Homestead, Bristol, Nashville Super Speedway, and finally full-length Daytona 500 race to finish off the season, which I think that is probably the portion of the season I am most excited about. The fact of, usually it's the way you start the season off. We're having the Super Bowl to finish off the season here for the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series.
It is such a cool way to definitely end out the season. Definitely the opposite of what most do, but I think it's very creative. So we'll see how that shakes out, and it could end up being the race that decides everything. And when Super Speedway is what decides a championship, we know it's going to be wild.
It certainly should be a wild one as we are about to get ready for racing action. 267 laps about to be underway. 21 drivers have registered up for tonight's racing event. And top of the board, it's Colin Clary putting down another fast time as a 29.585. We're not expecting those drivers to hit those times maybe immediately because it will be tire saving right from the beginning of this race that they have to handle. But Zach, right as we're about to get into racing action, interesting note, our top two were close, within 1/10 of one another. Rest of the field, 1/10, 2/10, some were even over a second slower than the fastest time put down by Clary. That's a sign that drivers are already thinking about tire saving. Or is the pace that different? We'll find out and see because it's about to be racing action here this evening. Drivers are gritting up, and we're about to get underway for this 267-lap monster event, full-length Texas. And starting up front, it's a driver that was very consistent in the first half of the season, fallen off here lately, hoping for a rebound after his not great run last week at Kansas Speedway. We've got the three machine of Chris Lonis taking the top spot. Now, all these positions were going to be automatically generated. They were, randomly generated on where they were going to be starting. A few drivers will be sent to the end of the line due to penalties last week. But the three of Chris Lonis will take that top spot. To his outside, going to be seeing Joseph Augusta, the 25. Been on the slower end. We'll see if he starts from pit road or if he'll ask for an EOL. Say the 25 wants to handle the front row. Powers for himself. Back in row number 2, it's the 94 of Austin Gruel with Eric Dillingham in 4th. Paul Boomershine got the win last week, so will have an end-of-the-line penalty. Well, because if you win last week, you have to start at the end of the line the next. And new driver debut, 81, Brandon Mimic, who's going to be Ninick, who's going to be in that 6th position. Drew Blaze in 7th with Alan Swan in 8th, and finishing out our top 10, it's Harold Crow in the 33 and the 19 of Jacob D. Booth.
In row number 6 here is going to be our points leader of the 7 car of Colin Clary with Ken Couch on the outside. In 13th is going to be Johnny Bobby Brown in the 06 machine, with 14th being held by the 707 of David Collins. 15th is going to be the 155 of Kenneth Blackburn with Nicholas Don Francesco starting in 16th. 17th is going to be Greg Watching Sky as Paul Olson will start 18th alongside. 19th is going to be Austin Mees. 20th is going to go to James Dubose in the 55, and rounding out our 21 cars here tonight is going to be the 30 of Caden Watts.
Caden Watts hoping for a good run, not here, but was going to be given penalties, was Teresa Spiker as well as Ken Couch. Kenneth Blackburn and Harold Crow were all given EOLs due to being involved with an incident of some sort last week. And also Paul Boomershine with his winner EOL will be sent to the end of the line. So a few drivers already being sent back there, but up front will be Chris Alanis taking the control here just in a few moments, with Eric Dillingham going to be finding himself to the outside due to Joseph Augusta starting in pit road. Zach, before we get to racing action, any final thoughts before we get into the madness here this evening?
Well, let's see how these drivers attack these first few opening laps, Sam. It's going to be interesting. Like we've said, it's going to be kind of a tire conservation game here early in the going, especially. So we'll see what these drivers elect to do as they line up and get all grouped up. As like they said, a lot of EOLs there, so some drivers drop into the back. But Lana's going to lead the way, and we'll see if everybody can keep in touch.
Dillingham and Lannis, your top two, getting ready to go green. Pace car about to pull off, and it's time for the Lonestar Texas 400 to get underway. Thank you for joining with us. We're excited for the journey. One of the longest races of the season is underway as we are green here this evening. Lannis out with a great launch. It's actually going to be Eric Dillingham on the outside who gets rolling. The 89 from the outside to the front immediately here, but let's already go 3 wide right off the rip down the middle. Take a chance. What a battle by the newcomer of the 81 of Brandon. What an opportunity he saw, and ripping it through the middle.
And in Minnick right there making the pass to the inside, and that was, like you said, through the middle, and just what a power move he looked to do as those two up front were kind of, racing each other as Lannis didn't get that greatest start, and it was Dillingham who shot out the gates, but the 81 saw the opening, took the opportunity, and is now out front. We'll see what the newcomer can do. And right now we also have Drew Blaze and Colin Clary up to 4th and 5th with the help of a lot of those EOLs. They would have benefited a lot with the rows.
And Blaze, Clary, they need a good run to get back into the mix, but we're already seeing sparks early on, just showing how low these Gen 6 vehicles are against the ground, trying to minimize the amount of air that gets underneath these machines. And it is a great start for the newcomer, Brandon Ninick, who, Brandon Ninick, who's going to be that driver that I'm curious about, because he was in Discord this morning saying, hey, is it too late for me to join? They said, no, you can hop on in. The 81 making a statement here early on, taking that first spot immediately, but ripping the top, trying to make a power move. Going to be Jacob D. Booth in that 19 machine, not waiting for anybody, but Zach looking at the lap times, a pretty big drop off and fall off from where some of the practice times were lining up. Everyone taking it easy here in just the first couple of laps.
No doubt, a big drop off. I mean, we saw Colin Clary, I believe, ran a 29.5 in practice. His fastest lap in here, a 30.14. So it is upwards of a half a second, up to 0.6 of a second slower in this session already. And I'll tell you, a minute out front, he has been the only driver to run in the 29-second bracket. So it just shows you, I think everybody, like you said, kind of in that conservation mind and knowing that they're going to have to make these tires last for a long time. And if anything, Sam, I think a strategy might be to employ where one of these times you try to take a tire, a little farther than it's supposed to, and maybe have that extra set if we do catch a caution later. Because if you do have an extra set late, it will be a benefit.
And with everyone driving so slow, it's kind of counterintuitive of what the natural feeling of these racers are going for. When you are racing, you are wanting to go as fast as possible with the knowledge of you want to back off, not use up your sets, all of it immediately. But this is just, you're not able to race until the final 20 laps of this run. You're not able to really do anything. You are protecting at all times, and that's what's allowing some of these drivers that would notoriously be known back maybe outside the top 15, outside the top 10, inside of the top 10, and fighting for a chance of a good run, because it's not about being the fastest, about saving your tires while being as quick as possible. And that's where we're seeing some of these drivers with big runs. David Collins taking off. He wants to have a decent run here tonight, as he did not have the best given the pole last week, then taking out Bradley in lap 1. He's hoping to have a good rebound here tonight in 7th. And here is going to be the 24 of Nicholas DeFrancesco, who got second once again. Multiple second place finishes. The 24 in 12th place. Not a bad place to be when he sees the 97 of Mice right in front of him.
Definitely not a bad place to be when, one of the top 3 guys is right there in front, like you said, Sam. So we'll see if Mice can make his way towards that front. But Don Francesco is going to have actually Ken Couch here right behind him, looking to the inside down the back straightaway. Is actually going to get to the inside here in the corner, and that's going to slow him up a little bit. His Couch onto that apron, and that's something you can see here plenty of times tonight, Sam. You're going to want to get close to that white line, but if you get too much of it, like there we see with Ken, you just lose the rear end very quickly as that car de-wedges.
And Ken is one of those drivers that put down a very fast time early on. He wants to gain all these positions back, as he started this race off with an EOL. So had to start at the end of the line, and 08, early aggressive, wanting to power his way forward. And turns 3 and 4, it is the corner side of the track. It was not affected with the changes back in 2017 when they decided to change up Texas and move around turns 1 and 2, make it a little bit wider, have less banking. 3 and 4, notoriously known as the setup corners, where drivers go much faster through. And like you said, you want to stay as low as possible, but that apron catches drivers if you're not a precise hitting your marks every single lap type of a driver. Sometimes you overcook it at times, a little bit too low.
No doubt, it's definitely easy to do. And the interesting thing too with that corner, especially with this package too, this 550 horsepower high downforce Gen 6 package, I'm pretty sure majority of these guys, they might be lifting just for a little bit of tire conservation and fuel, but very easy to go flat foot through 3 and 4 here in these cars. Really the biggest thing is finding the air that allows that, because I know next gen's much higher in the horsepower and even a little lower downforce than this car created in this package. you can almost go flat foot with that car. So the grip you get through 3 and 4 is immense with this package, and then you go down to 1 and 2, and it is so flat, and the car just doesn't want to turn. So, like you said, Sam, I think it is a great setup corner, so to say, to really build a run on somebody.
And here's the 88 of Drew Blaze, who is currently battling to stay inside of the top 5 at this current moment of time, but being challenged behind is Jacob D. Booth, as well as Watching Sky. Back and forth there. Dillingham now in trouble as he'll falter back a little bit too wide through 3 and 4 there. But Drew Blaze, one of the drivers, has been the most consistent throughout this whole season. Most top 10s with 8, most top 5s with 7, and currently tied with second of most wins at 2 with Austin Mice. Driver with the most wins is Colin Clare. He runs in second, which we're expecting a lot from Clary, but Drew Blaze, a driver that really found his momentum and run a few races ago at Pocono. Here tonight, I'm just curious if 88 really has anything for the likes of Colin, who is the odds-on favorite for this evening's race.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they kind of have for each other. Drew's been so good at saving the tires, so we'll see his whole little contact there. Dillingham in that 89, he was trying to go to the inside of the 88 there, but just slid up into the door, and that's a common syndrome you'll see here. Is you get tight on the inside of somebody, you slide up into them, and you actually lose the rear of your car as it kind of gets hit from that car on the outside.
I mean, the searching of how to slow down into turn 1, it is a difficult spot to be. I mean, Zach, for these drivers, this is a fixed setup, but what are some ways that maybe you can try to help this slow down spot through 1 and 2?
Really, the biggest thing is you need to kind of do what Dillingham did there, and is find the opening on the racetrack. If you try to follow someone, you're not only going to be in the dirty air, but you're going to be in the draft, which kind of pulls you in on that entry, kind of hurts your entry of the quarter, not be able to get slowed down. So it's really key to find the clean air, but also you just got to be able to back this corner up. I've always felt like turn 1 in Texas, always a corner that just kind of pays off for being a little bit of underdriving the entry and using that to overdrive the rest of the corner. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers set each other up, but when you're trying to pass somebody, it is very difficult side by side.
Well, speaking about passing, potential setup for the lead position. Brandon Mimick's going to be that driver to worry about as this 81. So sorry, Brandon, you're new to the series, and we'll get your name right here the next couple if you keep on showing up. But this 81, they're looking a little bit weaker on the entries in exodus of turns 1 and 2, 3 and 4, willing to use up all this grip. But this is where the difference is. The 7 trying to find an opening, big block to the inside, forcing Clary to go to the outer groove. But they're also closing in on lap traffic. That's going to be Joseph Augusta in the 25. The field is closing in on, but here we go, Zach. This could have been the pass, the move to the inside. Clary's got the space. He's got the opening, but are they going to be able to make the pass before they catch up to this lap car? Also, Lannis following suit. Drew Blaze, a couple of issues have fallen back and hurt some drivers, and the battle for the lead is now done and dusted, but the 81, he is trying to fight back.
Trying to fight back for sure. Now you're going to have that draft from the 7, so we'll see what he can do, as he's going to have that first time a dirty air down in 3 and 4, and yeah, the 81, I think, experienced what that was, because he lost the nose. His whole Augusta into the outside wall.
Trouble! And Augusta gets in the way, and multiple drivers are wrecked. And the first handful of corners trying to get by the lap car. Instead of getting low, he runs in the middle, and trouble is afoot. And out of this race, potentially 3 drivers. Chris Lannis required damage, Augusta required, and as well Jacob D. Booth. And here's what happened. The 25 stays high, hits the wall, and drops right in front of the field, and everyone involved in this one.
Big damage from a lot of cars, and yeah, I think that's got to be just the 25 kind of being in his mirror there, not trying to be out of the way for the leaders as they're coming up quickly on him. And I think he just kind of lost where he was at in the tri-oval and just kind of drove straight. And that right there is going to put him in the outside wall. Like you say, him down in front of the 88, the 5 involved. Blaze caught the nose there, but the 5, watching this guy, got sent down. Lawless up into the outside wall. Multiple cars. Heavy damage from this early incident.
It just should have been avoidable. Shouldn't have been there, but lap cars being, 20, being 2 to 3 seconds slower than the field, And then doing that does not help, as top 2 able to get by, but third back to 7th involved in this one. And multiple drivers having to take the tow to pit road. Jacob D. Booth able to drive on his own accord. Chris Launis about to head into pit road. Augusta took the tow. And that is a bizarre way to start this race. And now, if you're thinking about pit stops, Zach, you can't take tires. If anyone takes tires at this moment in time, this could be a race ruining moment for yourself just 20 laps in.
I'd have to agree. And I don't hate the idea of pitting here, though. You know, the tires do not take. I like the idea of fuel here. I really do think that would be a good equation, and then you could take these set of tires even farther now with this extra added bit of fuel. So yeah, you're gonna have to keep conserving, and a lot of these people are coming down, of course, for damage repair. But man, I would definitely like to have the extra fuel on board just to give you some more opportunities and options available. So a few drivers still electing to stay out, of course, but it looks like most cars not jacking up their cars. So I think most are very wise to save that set of tires.
Under the understanding of let's not waste the set, but let's get this damage repair. A couple of drivers did get to the outside wall, but again, 3 drivers required damage with this first caution. Augusta, Booth, and as well Launis gonna have to deal with the damage. And could their days already be done? Which, I mean, this is a tough one. If you're gonna have trouble, you'd like to have it in the first half of this race. You have time to recover. I don't know if this is going to be recoverable, but certainly going to be a long evening for a few drivers here tonight, as Chris Launis' required damage flag has been removed, but plenty of optional to deal with, on top of Drew Blaze having a lot of front-end damage in Watch and Sky. This now leaves us with our top 4. He did not decide to go into the pits. Here's the 7 of Chris Clary, as well as the 81 of Brandon, and Johnny Bobby Brown going to be in 3rd, and David Collins all going to be sitting where they're at. One driver I do want to check and see if he took tires, and that's going to be the 30 machine of Hayden Watts, and the 30 did take tires. Zach, watch out for the 30. Watts could be flying through this field. I don't know if he'll be making it to the end of this race, though.
Going to be putting himself in a difficult situation here, using the set tires in the first 20 laps. So yeah, that puts him with only 4 sets left, 3 in pit road now for the rest of this 240 laps that still remain. So yeah, it really puts you in such a tough position. So we'll see how Hayden Watts can decide to run his strategy now with that situation playing out. But also, a lot of people I've looked there, Sam, they did get a lot of their damage fixed. It looks like Drew Blaze's nose is pretty clean on my side of things, and Greg Watson-Sky also got his car pretty cleaned up too, and same for Launis. So a few dents and dings here, but it looks like a few of these guys are able to get back out, at least on track.
And that was the one thing that was kind of shocking to us the last couple of races, of some of these supposed hard hits that should have given you a lot of damage. Drivers got nothing from. So sometimes the racing gods are on your side, and you will not be dealing with the damage that you thought that you accrued. But Colin Clary and the 81 going to be on his outside, getting ready for this takeoff and a go. 22 laps all about to be completed of 267 this evening. Plenty of racing action still to be given as Peaks cars off into the restart zone. We are green. Again, top 4 did not take any opportunity to top up on fuel or take tires. Only driver that took tires, the 30 of Caden Watts. Everyone else topped off, got some damage repair, and it's a takeoff and go moment for the 7 as the rest of the field try to find their openings to make some passes or continue to think about salvaging their tires.
Definitely a lot of decisions to still be made here early in the going at Texas. You see Drew Blaze back here in the background trying to make early work of a few of these drivers. Watts, on the newer tires. We're interested to see how fast he goes, but Blaze already looking to the inside of that race car and trying to get on pass. So definitely the 30 kind of not really using the tires.
And honestly, it makes sense. He used the set here. Maybe he realized, oh shoot, I made a mistake. And now he's realizing he's going to have to super save on this set. Might as well take it easy at this time. Now moving up into 4th position. First driver who topped off on fuel, the 24 of Nicholas DeFrancesco, and 24 as well as the 89 right behind him in that teal machine, trying to make their opportunities to go for some moves. with topping off on fuel, I think it gives you a little bit of more opportunities to make some passes, potentially be a little bit more aggressive. Yes, your tires are in a weird limbo space, but with having the pace laps of this caution, it does give you chances to be slightly more aggressive on top of having that extra fuel.
Yeah, it really does. It lets you definitely decide to change things up. Because right now, Austin Mice trying to make this pass here on the bottom of this '08 machine at Ken Couch. And, I've been watching Austin. He's been kind of right around the 9th to 10th position for most of this race. So, been kind of quiet here early in the going. And intermediates have been really his strong suit, so to say, this season. So, we'll see. Maybe this is, again, a situation where he just knows it's a lot of conservation here tonight, a lot of being efficient with all of your equipment will possibly come down to how this race unfolds at the very end of this thing.
As everyone's already single filed out and trying to find your positioning, 26 laps in. A little bit of blinking action going on with Johnny Bobby Brown. Hoping that gets cleared up for the 06 machine. Seeing a few other drivers looking for an opportunity to maybe take the outside, the inside, and just there off the exit of the corner, Zach. I mean, we saw a couple people in that shot. Some are way shallower off the exit of turn 2. Others are very close to the outside wall. It's interesting to see the dynamic of where you feel the most comfortable to take this vehicle off the exit of the corner.
It really is turn 2 that I prefer the most on this racetrack because of that wide variety. You really have the opportunity to exit a much straighter and lower line if you kind of keep it tucked very late, or you have so much width of the racetrack there to really go out to the wall. So it really does allow a lot of options, and I think turn 2 exit there, you really have an opportunity to be different than drivers around you, and kind of use that to make passes. So we'll see how drivers utilize that all night. But right now, this group right here is battling it up as David Collins just got passed by King Couch. Now it's going to be the 97 of Austin Mees. And it's a lot of drivers right behind him stacked up too.
Austin Mice making his way forward up to 7th position. David Collins on the inner group. We're seeing all these drivers bobbing and weaving. Where do you want to place yourself off the exit of the corner, and how aggressive do you want to be? Alan Swan now on the 85. You saw on screen trying to defend for his position. As Drew Blaze, where will the 88 go? Hard front end contact, but seems to be still running good laps. Based off of his pace that he's running with other drivers. And I say that the contact there between the 707 and the 88. And over the radio, Harold Crow saying, "Are you guys playing bumper cars?" I don't think that's the way you want to race, even with stock cars, but Robin's racing when it comes to these type of vehicles.
Oh, and the 85 or 707 a little tight there on the entry or center of the corner, and man, when the 88 got to that quarter panel, it just pulled the 707 up, and they just made contact once again. That could have been a disaster, and the 707 just driving it super deep there, right across the 88, and I think you're going to see an easy pass now for Drew, and the 707 going to lose 3 spots here with that move down into 1.
And David Collins carrying over some of that racing prowess that he had last week, just getting in trouble for himself. It's just breaking tight. I don't know if this is tire wear, over aggressive racing. That is a bizarre one we just saw there for the last couple of laps. But for Drew Blaze, he's happy he got by some of those shenanigans and able to continue racing on. Especially on the fact that he was the driver who ran into Augusta that brought out our first caution of the day. And now he's got a couple of more drivers figure out how to get by as Mice, Couch, back and forth. The 08, the 97. Well, they had to do a little bit of bumper car action here. 32 laps in, and maybe some tempers already flared. We got a lot more racing to go, boys, before this thing's over.
Yeah, somebody needs to say, hey, we're 32 laps into this thing. So, yeah, long way to go for these guys. But we'll see how they manage the rest of the night. I mean, this is a track, again, it's tough to pass. It's tough to be side by side. And this package, I imagine, makes it even tougher. As you can see, Blaze in the background, he's going to make the pass on Alan Swan in the 85. Looks like you're down into 3 and 4. We'll get that job done. So the 88 up to the 8th position. And King Couch just got passed by the 97. Austin Mice right up ahead. So this group here is continuing forward. The 97 and 88, though, they got a lot of work to do. They need to go up there and get up there with the 7.
They certainly do. And the 7, where is he? No man's land. No one is even close. Over 2.5 seconds back is the next driver. And it helps when your competition is wiped out. Everyone that was keeping it close with Colin Clary are now out of this thing in some fashion of being so far back. Over 4.5 seconds is the next closest driver that once was challenging the 7. And here's the battling for second place. You got the 81, the 06, and the 24 going back and forth. Nicholas DiFrancesco in the 24 did have the second place position for a second, but just showing one slip up, and you are losing that spot that you worked so hard for.
No doubt, yeah. This group here is battling hard, but they're losing time. I think that's the one thing that's kind of tough for them is I've seen them kind of trading positions back and forth. Sometimes in this package, you know, the allowance for that to happen is there because of just how drafty this package is. It allows you to kind of close in and really make moves on people. But man, I tell you, you can also slow each other down a ton by racing very, very aggressively and hard on each other. So you gotta be mindful of that because it can really affect your overall time of the race more than anything.
Here's an update of some of the drivers further on back that were caught up in our first caution of the day. Joseph Augusta officially out of the server, has not shown signs of returning back, but their required damage flag has been removed. Andy Booth is back out on track, currently 15 laps down. But the rest of the field, top 19, still on the lead lap currently, but could be under threat of being caught. It's Chris Launis, Boomershine, and Paul Olson that are the next 3 that are a little bit slower than what our current leader is putting down on pace. And Zach already, even with backing off, saving what you got, a second slower than their best time is Colin Clary, and the rest of the field about a second slower as well. And 38 laps in, we still have, crazy enough, 20 laps to go before you really want to take your first set of tires.
That is kind of wild to think about it, and that how, you know, much you really need to stretch these runs out. So we'll see how these drivers attack that when they get to that situation. When we look back towards our second position, it's Brandon Minnick there as we jump back here to the 707, I believe is we're going to go back up to these top 2 here is the 24 of Don Francesco. Trying to put that pressure on, and I feel like the 24 is a little bit quicker here, Sam. But the 81 has just been able to get back around a few times, and it's really kind of, you know, allowing that 7 to just drive right away.
You know, we've gotten to learn a lot of these drivers' tendencies of their willingness to be aggressive, to attack and battle and fight. The 81, in these first 40 laps, was already proven willing to defend a position and willing to fight back and not give up. I think the only position that was really unattainable to hold back was Colin Clary, but since then, willing to give up the positioning and runs through 3 and 4, through 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 is where this 81 feels stronger, and that's what we're seeing, this swapping back and forth action. And behind them, disappearing 06 of Johnny Bobby Brown, who's under a little bit of trouble, has not returned back, but he was in the middle of this 4-horse race, so a lot of concern over the radio of where is Johnny Bobby Brown. He's been gone now for a full lap, and Zach, that is never a good sign. That is usually a showing of packet loss, and you will be kicked off the server here shortly.
Exactly, Sam. Yeah, that's usually a pretty telltale sign when you're that, you know, that far gone for that long. So tough to see now for Johnny Bobby Brown, and that 06 machine he was having a great run here tonight to start off these opening laps, but maybe we'll see him fortunately come back, but at the time it's now upwards of 2 laps. It's very unlikely.
Well, this is battling looks fun and great this is for the lead, but this is for second place if you're just joining us. Our leader, 5 seconds ahead, Colin Clary, who is the favorite to win here tonight. He's got a 75% chance of every race that is a mile and a half that he shows up to. He is winning this season. Crazy to see that stat line of his mile and a half package for the 7. But man, are they going back and forth here for that racing for the drivers in second, because it is now brought in the rest of the field. Also over the radio, Johnny Bobby Brown has returned, currently 1 lap down, and just popped up on the outside. Luckily, the rest of the field was able to avoid where that 06 was, but Zach is battle for third now underway, and here we go. Let the madness begin, and the final about 15 laps on this set of tires.
I'll tell you, Austin Mice and Drew Blaze have been flying. They've been pretty much matching the times that Colin Clary up front, our leader. So like what the 97 and 88 have been doing here is they're slowly but methodically picking these positions off one by one at a time. And now Austin Mice right here on the back of the 81 going to look to the inside here down in 1 and 2. Should be able to make the clean pass, as it looks like that 97 going to take over that position, is now for the time being going to decide to cover off that inside.
Gonna cover off the inside, was clear to go up, but just waited too long before changing up that momentum. And the main reason why, felt like he could defend the 81 better on the inside groove, but almost contact made, and both losing the rear end for a second. The 81 and the 97 keeping it close, side by side, down into turn number 1. Austin Mice, you better get clear quick, because that 81 is ruthless through 3 and 4, especially up the exit of the corner.
Can't let him get to his quarter panel this time. And look, the 81 going to look again to the inside here, down the back straightaway. A little bit of dicing left and right, and 97 going to cover it off, kind of give the air to that 81. And now Blaze going to try to make the pass, but it's going to be tough again without that help at the bottom. It's just going to be really, really tough to do. Is now down here 1 and 2, going to have a nice clean entry. We'll see if he can complete the pass and get past the 81 Brand Minnick. And it looks like Blaze will get the job done.
Minnick is just being tossed around and just showing, hey, your first showings here at a race, you can set the tone very quickly. Are you going to be a driver that respects others? Are you willing to race immediately? And the 81's proving, let's race each other from the very beginning. And all the rest of the field is making moves to stop him in any way possible, as Mice and now Drew Blaze show the signs, going to the inside on the 24 of Don Francesco, and a little bit of a whoa up for the 97. Almost gave a chance for Drew Blaze to go take a 2-for-1 special. And we'll get back in line as they head down into 3 and 4. And as all this is going on, 6.5 seconds ahead is Colin Clary on his own mission to start lapping drivers, as he's about 3 laps away from putting down Chris Lannis to put us to 17 on the lead lap.
You know, while this has been all some great racing going on right here from really our second position all the way back to around 8th, is, they're almost 4 wide there for a moment. That was wild. I think that was a car flying up through. I don't know who that was. They're saying
it was the 80. It was the 81 backing off so much that he then fell back and gave an opportunity for a couple of drivers to sneak on through it. Hurt the 89, and it looked like the 19 of Jacob D. Booth back out on track, fresh tires, and able to just motor his way forward. Pitted 14 laps ago after getting all his damage repair, and because of having such fresher tires, now on full attack mode, trying to get by these late lap drivers.
Blaze going for it in 88, man. He made a great move on Austin Mice up there to move up into 3rd, and now going to get the job done up there. As you can see, the 88, he's just had so much grip there in the center of the corner. Again, able to have such great long run pace. I think that's really been the 88's strongest point this whole entire season. And, you know, all this race that we're seeing here is great and very, very entertaining for us, Sam, here. But I tell you what, the lap time difference that you have from just a lap running by yourself compared to a lap that you're side by side with somebody is so drastically different. Colin Clary has loved all this battling. It's upwards of a 7-second gap. I wouldn't even be surprised if Drew Blaze starts running quicker, if not a little, matching 7 runs.
But he can't. That's the problem. Even if he's clear here, he's going to probably match the 7, if not run slower, because you got to save your tires. With all the battling you just did, your tire wear is worse than the drivers that, such as the 7, who's been on his own for this whole entire stint. This is a nightmare scenario that you just had for the 88 and for others, on top of having the lap down machine of Jacob D. Booth now able to run his race, as Chris Lannis is now heading into pit road for the 3 machine, as Lannis will be caught with the black flag speeding on entry. So that's a 40-second hold on top of all the other repairs he's mostly going to be going for. So this has just gotten things a lot more trickier, especially since that first caution. It's put a lot of drivers in an odd spot on how they want to attack and go forward. Another driver into pit road, that's the 81 of Brandon, who's going to get service done for themselves. And with 52 laps into this run, this is a call. If you did not save fuel, nor did you think about your tires, you will have to be forced into pit road before you hit that magic 57 number that a lot of drivers are looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, this is definitely an early on the end of stops, for my opinion. So yeah, definitely an interesting situation as you see here. Also the 88 of Drew Blaze there, he was under a little threat. That's the 19 of Jacob D. Booth, who is about 15 laps down, a little bit fresher tires than everybody, I believe, too. So he is flying up through here to these drivers ahead and catching up to him. But if you're Drew Blaze right now, you're pretty much like we said, matching with Colin Clary. He just kind of needs to keep it here and then hope for some situation where, you know, the strategy plays in his favor, because he does have the extra fuel on board here to take it longer than that 7 can.
Update for more drivers that are back of the field. Augusta officially out of this race. On top of that, Johnny Bobby Brown with connection issues has opted out of this race after returning, being 1 lap down. Just saw it was not the best to continue racing on, so the 06 looks to be done as well. So that's another position that Jacob D. Booth could be grabbing for himself, with sitting in pit road, going 15 laps down, and now able to grab some of those positions. Here's going to be a couple of Pauls lined up with one another. You got Paul Blumershein in 14th, and on screen, the 23 of Paul Olson, who are going for their runs in 14th and 15th position. And Paul Blumershein no longer in the white, putting on a little bit of orange and black on top of some white here this evening. So a little bit of change of colors, and that is always, you know, you're hoping that that luck you once had on the old scheme carries over to the new scheme. And right now, Paul Blumershein in survival mode, which is the usual spot you want to see this 92.
Definitely, for sure. Great job of him surviving again, and you never know. He could be in victory lane once again if everything plays out wild. So, you know, right now just taking his time, so to say. So we'll see how this all works out. And I've been watching lap times, watching everything play out. Looks like now Austin Mice has also moved himself into third around Don Francesco. And really right now the 7, the 88, the 97, really the driver should have some of the most pace on the racetrack. So they're doing a great job, of course, of being our top 3 in points. No surprise to see the speed they brought, you know, at each and every track. But I will say Drew Blaze, Sam, he is considerably cutting into the gap. He's already took about a 1.5 seconds out of that gap. So he's doing what he needs to do here, and he can go again much longer on fuel here. You know, the question is, how long will they be able to go? Because if you can stretch it far enough, he may be able to get into a window where, you know, the 3 stop, you know, 3 flag stop strategy kind of comes available for him, where that would not, I believe, be available to the 7.
I'm also curious on Drew Blaze's standpoint, as Chris Launis officially has called it a night, as the 3 machine is in pit road after getting called with a black flag on pit entry, and going to be now multiple laps down. That's another potential position for Jacob D. Booth, who do show a mental fortitude in just the first 50 laps, can be rewarded greatly for the 19. Jacob D. Booth, I'm curious with the fact that he's got fresher tires, his willingness to attack and go faster, and is pushing along this 88 is another reason why we're seeing Drew Blaze kind of matching or go faster than Colin Clary, and why he's been able to really dig into this gap is because he's got the assistance of a driver that's able to keep up and help with the draft on these straightaways.
It definitely is not hurting, that's for sure, Sam. You will take that all day if you're Drew Blaze. I think the 19 is starting to struggle a little bit just with following, so he is dropping back now. So we'll see if Blaze can keep the pace, because it's been about a 31.2 is the range he's been running. So as soon as he's got a little gap here on Booth, it's about a 31.3 at the moment. So we'll see again, if that will affect the pace for him. But he's got that lead down to 5.3 seconds. And if anything, he's done a good job from where he started in the field, because he had a ton of damage to get fixed. So he's driven all the way through during this run.
Hey, another driver I want to give a note of, he's doing a good job right now. I'm hoping I'm not commentator cursing him. Alan Swan in the 85. We've seen him in these bigger 1.5 courses run quite well. That is where the strength of the 85 kind of lines up. But right now, 5th place, challenging for 4th. This is not a bad run here for stint number 1 of the 85, part of the cluster of drivers that topped off on fuel under our first caution of the day. Now, of the drivers that didn't top off, there's 2 that are yet to pit so far. That's Colin Clary, who's leading this race, and David Collins. The other 2 drivers that didn't top off are out of this race or have already had to pit. So this has kind of put those drivers that stayed out in a weird spot, because they will have to pit here shortly for the 7 as well as the 707. Everyone else can go quite far from here.
You know, the window that opens up here is at lap 68 also. So if we get the 68 here and they can stretch it, easily that far, they will be able to make this race in 3 green flag stops from here. So that would be a huge benefit for, of course, saving the set of tires that they want to. But a lot of drivers, I think, are going to be interested in getting to that number. It's going to be the question is, can the 7 do it? I think that's going to be the real question, because, like I said, some of the others that didn't had all pitted here.
As David Collins now going to go a lap down. So went from just on that last restart, seeing the 7's bumper, to now going a lap down just 40 laps later. Gonna be a tough one for the 707. I was hoping for this run to continue on and for him to still be on the lead lap when pit stop cycle began. And now that leaves us with 15 drivers on the lead lap, as the 7 of Colin Clary once again proving he is the driver. When you come to mile and a half, he's the biggest threat to try to stop. And we know Drew Blaze is going to be close on pace. The question is can he close in on the gap? It helps that the Colin had lap cars and lap traffic. It's kind of helped with the gaining of time for the 88. And now a question of how much more time will there be before the 7 finally hits pit road?
It's going to be the huge question. I mean, right there at that time, even with after getting past the traffic, it was about 0.2 of a second difference there for Drew Blaze. So if he can continue to keep knocking off 0.2 of a second here, and we see this 7 make it at least to 68 here, he could very well be with under 4 seconds. And look, he's coming to pit here at 65, Sam. So yeah, he is going to be outside that window. And with where those other drivers pitted, they should have plenty of ability to stretch it far enough to make it into that window.
And that's going to give the opportunity of, was pitting the best call when the timing loaned out? Are you able to stretch it even further? Or is it the fact that we can see Colin try to use up some tires? So we'll see who's got the better strategy, as Colin Clary has to make the pit stop, giving up the lead now to Drew Blaze and also Austin Mice, Swan, Dan Francesco, and Eric Dillingham, as they are still another 20 laps from expected pit stops. A lot more racing still to go, but for us up in the booth, I'm curious on how much further these drivers are going to take. I know we're going to take our first break of this evening, as 200 laps still to go here for the Lone Star Texas 400. Into the outside wall is going to be 81 for a quick moment. We still will go to a commercial break, as lap down drivers lead lap drivers. Always expected to see them have their fiascos. But for us, we will be back right after this with more racing action here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We'll see you on the other side. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series, and troubles afoot under our commercial break. Drew Blaze was our leader coming into the commercial, exiting. He's now 2 laps down, caught speeding and spun out on entry into pit road. Drew Blaze, lap 75, is where he found himself with the trouble for the 88 machine. Now going to be all the way down in 17th position. We're still underway with pit stops. We stay on board with Alan Swan because he was one of those drivers that still need to go into pit road. But we look through the field. Zach, closest battle of those inside of the top 10 is Eric Dillingham. About 7/10 off Nicholas DeFrancesco. We're still waiting on our top 5 to make their pit stop, stretching it out as far as they can go.
Definitely a long stretch here on the tires for these first, drivers who came to pit road on that first pit or caution session and got fuel in their race cars. No tires, of course, for those drivers, and it's been a huge benefit. As you see, 89 kind of slicing down there. I wonder if Dillingham going to make the decision to come to pit road or not, because he's got Austin Weiss coming up right behind him, and that could have been super close. Luckily, the 89 kind of felt that situation playing out, and he decided to turn back to the right there, Sam. So good job by the 89, because that could have been disaster for these folks. As Francesco taking it to the top of the boards.
Don Francesco ripping his way forward, trying to get up front as quickly as he can. A lot of other drivers looking for their opportunities to take the lead spot. As Alan Swan's still out there on track, and here's going to be a little bit of 3 wide for a moment. Paul Boomershine's still out on track. The 7 of Colin Clare, he couch. And just a fiasco of fresh tires to old. And with this race being the full length 267 laps, is put into question of how far do you want to stretch your fuel. We had a caution at lap 20 that really threw in a wrench for a lot of these people. It was either stay out and just pit when you felt like you needed to when you ran out of fuel, or top off on fuel and go the extra mile. And we've seen a lot of these drivers stretching it way further than I was expecting to see. Swan's still out there. Dan Francesco, Dillingham still yet to pit. Boomershine on top of that. And what makes this strategy a little bit rougher, I think, for Paul Boomershine is the fact that he has just been passed by the 7 for position. Eric Dillingham's just heading into pit road. They're trying to cut that pit stop, but if you're already getting passed before your pit stop's even done, that's not a good sign for the later half of this race.
It's definitely not. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of going farther here, but I think now this has gone to a zone where you're a little too far into the zone. I would have gave myself, because you needed really to be about to that 68 marker, I would have gave myself a buffer zone of about 10 laps. So I think lap 78, lap 80 would have been crucial for these guys to pit. It's now going on to 86, almost 87, and now it's just lots of time being given up. So we'll see how this works out. But Alan Swan, as I say that, our leader has come to pit road, and a very conservative entry here to make sure no mistakes for this 85 team.
Conservative, or did he run out of fuel? Alan Swan was extremely slow, saying he's got a little bit of fuel to gas it back up, but he was close on not making it. As listening in, he is trying to get this thing to his box. But that was a very, very, very slow entry, which honestly threw away all the advantage he just had. To Dan Francesco and all the other drivers, that is a give-up time that was not worthy of what you're going for. We hop on board with the 24 of Nicholas DeFrancesco, still yet to pit, needing to make a pit stop here. And here we go into pit entry, and you got to be careful, because that pit line is way sooner than you're expecting.
It's caught a few off guard. Drew Blaze will definitely tell you that one came to bite him pretty bad there on the entry. So great job by the 24, getting it slowed down. He's going to come to his box now and get service done. And as this happens, Colin Clary has cycled to the lead, and Brandon Minnick has cycled to the 2nd place position, as it looks like Austin Mice will be in position in 3rd. And personally, the 97 is the driver I like strategy the most. I would have, if I was him, I would have maybe stretched it a couple more laps, but definitely I think in a zone where he should be able to make it on fuel with that one less stop. His question though is, do not give up too much time to the 7. That's going to be critical. And right now, with the fresher tires, he should be able to gain some of that 17 seconds back that this 97 is to our leader.
And fastest lap, Eric Dillingham in 9th position, 29.9. And that is going to be a decision of do you want to use your tires again? We are still in the same spot of you want to be fast, but you want to save your stuff. You don't want to overcook it. You still got to stretch your tires pretty far out. You don't want to waste it all just in one go. As Clary still leading the charge. I think the battle for second here in the next 3 laps is going to be the most curious thing for me of how does the 81 want to defend for that position. He's been probably the most waiting for the caution to come out for around that driver with the way that he's racing around others. So we'll see how that one lines up. But seeing Mice backing it off, taking it easy, watching Jacob D. Booth rip on the outside and able to continue on his way. Again, Jacob D. Booth 15 laps down after being involved with our first caution of the day. He sat in pit road, got all the damage repaired, and able to grab 3 spots because other drivers just cannot stretch it any further. But Zach, this also, yes, we're seeing Mice catching up, but he's 16 seconds back from Clary. This is already a scary spot, even with trying to cut down on a pit stop.
Definitely a scary spot to be in. I think the biggest thing is just he's got to stay good with, overall like average lap time. Because you look at someone like Alan Swan who stay out so long. Swan is, he is a lap down, and like he's got like little ways still to catch up to Colin Clary a little bit before he gets his lap back. So you can lose a ton of time. And right here, we'll see what Austin Mice does as he's gotten to the 81 of Brandon Minnick. Like you said, it's been interesting. A few times the 81's defended very strongly. Looks like he's going to push wide there, trying to stay alongside, but just not able to do it. And that's going to allow Mice the clean, easy pass. And that is exactly what he wanted to see, because last time by, a burner of a lap compared to really everybody around him. About a half a second quicker than anybody.
And Minnick, has been out there for 40 laps on this set of tires, so I'm not surprised that he's really getting swamped by everybody. Went with the early approach of the pit stop. Not really looking very solid on making it to the end on this set of tire, on the last couple of set of tires that he has, but we'll keep an eye on the 81 on how this strategy may help him later on as we are closing in on 100 laps completed. As if you're just joining us, let's bring up our race report. As here's Harold Crow in the 33, as he's trying to survive, currently in 7th position. But we've had 1 caution so far. That was back on lap 20, and that was after trouble. Lap car, Joseph Augusta, slowing up, got scared in the mirror, ran into the outside wall, and came back in front of a pack of 4. That was second back to 5th that he ran into, and it was a big calamity moment. And it's given an opportunity for Colin Clary to be this big lead. One and only caution of the day. Had a couple of lead changes under that green flag pit stop we just completed. But Zach, another factor I want to bring up is the weather. And I think this is a part that we're not expecting a lot of change, but the weather is set for the field here tonight in a pretty nice situation for this evening's race.
Definitely so. The 77-degree air temp, as you see there, it's equated out to about an 84-degree track temp. So it's not that much hotter than our ambient air here on the racetrack. And it's kept cool by these night skies, of course, and a little bit of partly cloudy conditions, or mostly cloudy conditions. So that's really played a factor into these cool track. And the wind, even too, not too bad. It's just kind of kept around that 3 to 4 mile an hour range. And I think that's not going to have too much of an effect for these guys out here, Sam.
Not expecting too much of a change at all here this evening. A lot of different situations, strategies. Who's got the best one? It's going to be the big question of the day as the field continues to race on. I want to say thank you to everyone that's out there in chat. Seeing a couple of people out there. We got Corbin Reich, who is out there for a second as well. We got a fan for Colin rooting for the 7, who currently is in your top 5 and your fastest laps as well next to them. But you got Colin Clary, Austin Mice, Brandon Minnick, who as well as Garrett of Greg, Watching Sky, and Alan Swan, your top 5 currently. Alan Swan doing a good job, but at this rate are about to be down to just 3 drivers on the lead lap. Zach, that's a factor I wasn't looking at until right now. Looking at the timing charts, we might only have 2 people on the lead lap here in the next 10 to 15.
And that's the interesting thing that plays out. Right now, in my opinion, Colin is still a little bit on the back foot compared to some of the other strategies because of having to still make, in my opinion, an extra stop compared to these others. The thing that I will say it's on his side, though, is as these stops go on, if he can continue to really in that first phase of the tires when, the other drivers are still out there on the older tire phase, extend that gap and grow his gap compared to the field, he's going to put a lot of people a lap down. And at some situation, he could almost be the only car on the lead lap at some point. So it can get very interesting, especially with still a long way to go in this race. We're not even to the 100 lap point just yet. So we'll see how Colin Clary can attack this, because I think he has got pace. This just question is, will he have the time with the 267 laps to open the gap enough to overcome a full pit stop? So that is, it's a tough thing to do, but this 7 has had such strong pace, it would be quite the feat.
100 laps about to be completed for the field. It's been a long one for a lot of these drivers. We're proud to give you all the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Zach Cole. Running Productions is Robert Moyer Jr. And here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we don't just call the Lone Star NASCAR iRacing Series. We also call on Thursday nights the 802 the next gen Elite Series. We're excited that they're in their preseason on Thursday nights. Had a little bit of a mess up on the settings last week, but you don't want to miss this upcoming Thursday's racing action, as we will be taking the next gen cars over to Charlotte this upcoming Thursday, and it should be a fun one. Preseason racing, three pre-race races before we get to the actual action June 4th on Thursday for the 802 League. As watching Colin, about to be under pressure from Eric Dillingham in the 89, who is a lap down, trying to get a lap back. So not going to have all these drivers go a lap down just yet, but certainly the speed's there for the 7 to continue to hold on to this position. Zach, 100 laps in. I know that first caution was a little bit of a jarring one. I think this field's expecting us to go clean and green for most of this race, but anything else that's kind of piqued your interest of this tonight's race so far, or maybe any surprises of the drivers and where they're running?
Well, I tell you what's piqued my interest is watching Sky in the 5. Got to give him a shout out. He had huge damage, and I think still had a little bit still from that initial caution. He's worked his way now into position here of 3rd. And I mean, yes, he's in a little bit worse position than Austin Mice in my opinion, because he's been about 4 laps earlier. But got to give him a huge credit for being right now top 5, running into a top 3 position, and he has just been super strong throughout these races that he's come into the picture. So it is great to have the 5 join the league, and good to see him once again out here creating a lot of pace.
And watch this guy, another driver who was a big threat last week at Kansas, was caught up in some earlier troubles that took him out. I mean, I feel like that's been kind of the looming issue of this season, especially the last few races, of lead lap drivers and drivers that are lap down getting involved with incidents between each other. Just a little bit of missteps, but also the thing that it's hurting everyone more, neck code. Zach, I think that's the big thing with running an older car the drivers are dealing with.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it definitely changes things up and makes it very, very difficult, Sam. So it's a situation these drivers are having to figure out, but we'll see how they can continue to navigate through the rest of the night here with this Gen 6 Cup Series car. So it's been fun to watch for us here, and it's definitely getting a little spread out now. But I will say there is one position starting to heat up a little bit. It seems like Don Francesco able to be a little bit quicker here early in the run in that 24. He's starting to run down that 85 of Alan Swan. So that 5th position in top 5 starting to heat up.
Yeah, we've got 3 drivers about to be very close to one another. We got Alan Swan, Nicholas DeFrancesco, and Eric Dillingham on top of our leader being involved with this racing action, all getting close to one another as they are in line. 3 positions, all battling for a chance to be inside of the top 5, and it's the 85 of Alan Swan that's in that control spot. And what makes this battle even more fun, they're all within about 3 laps of when they pitted, about 21 laps ago for Eric Dillingham, 18 laps ago for Dan Francesco, and 19 laps ago for Swan. You can bump all of those numbers up by 1 now that they cross the line. But the 85, 24, and 89 all going for position right now. And also battle maybe potentially for 4th place as they are slowly reining in the 81. A Minnick, who's going to be the next driver involved, who's really slow off the exit turn number 2 in the battle for 4th and 5th place. Very close, and it is almost contact. Now going to be seeing Nicholas DeFrancesco almost making a lunge to the inside. 2-for-1 special for the 24. Might be for a 3-for-1 special for the 89. Pick and choose where you want to go. 4 drivers, 4 positions. And Zach, this is the racing action we wanted, but it's the 81 who loses out on the outside.
They're really feeling the threat of those old tires, man. Just about 25 laps difference compared to a lot of the drivers had almost 30 for some of the others. So it is a big difference for Minnick, and he felt the boost of him when he put them on, but now really feeling that drought right there as he drops farther back, goes a lap down. But Colin Clary seeing a lot of this going on ahead of him. I think he's got to have a smart, head in this situation and be very patient.
And the thing for the 7 machine is he was passed by Dillingham that wanted to get back on the lead lap. And now with all that battling that was happening, they kind of get a little bit of fake hope, false delusions to the 7 that he can maybe make a pass on all those 3 drivers. Instead, he'll get back in line and watch them race on. And as this 30-lap run has gone through, I'm looking at Austin Mice as Minnick's going to be now heading into pit road for the 81 to get some service done. But the battle between 1st and 2nd, the gap has only shrunk 4 seconds over this 30-lap stint. It's now getting a little bit better because of the lap traffic. It's helping Austin Mice close in the difference. This is terrible news for the 7 of Colin because he's losing time every single lap that he's behind this group of 3 to 4 drivers. It is the 97 with clean air that is trying to rein in on our leader, and here's that chaos he's dealing with currently. Colin, if we could get him right hop on board, yeah, this is a great shot. You can see the different angles you're going for of the outside's full with the driver, the inside's full with multiple drivers. The clean air just nowhere to be found for our leader currently.
It is not available at the moment, so he is going to have to find the old-fashioned way around. He's going to look to the inside of the 89 Dillingham here, and Dillingham's going to fight here. These guys want to stay on the lead lap. No reason to roll over for this position, because if that yellow flag flies, you want to be on the lead lap, not getting the lucky dog. Lucky dog's going to stick you to the tail end of the longest lap, so you're definitely going to want to still be on that lead lap. It's over. Collins at the racetrack. It's going to make them 3 wide there on the exit. That got close there, Sam.
They got close, but surviving and continuing on as the 707 gets dropped in the middle and falls back behind our leaders. And now it's the next driver in line that they have to figure out how to get by. And that will be the 55 of James DeBose, who will be the next driver. That is ahead of this 4th, 5th, and 6th place in our leader currently. The 55 running high and letting the field have their action. Do you want to try to attempt for a pass? Do you stay behind? There's so many different looming opportunities here. And if you're Alan Swan, this is not the worst place to be. Nor if you're Eric Dillingham, you're close enough, even with pitting sooner, not having a big loss to the drivers that are around you. As this battle continues to linger on, this is the battle again that's happening for 4th, 5th, and 6th. There's also another battle happening for 9th and 10th place that is about to swap hands of Harold Crow, trying to find a way to get by Caden Watts. And Watts keeping strong on the inside, not wanting to let the 33 by just yet.
Definitely not wanting to let that 33 by there as Caden Watts, like you said, and battle continues on for those two as Watts and Crow both inside the top 10. But every position matters, as we know out here, so you're going to fight tooth and nail just to stay in front of that competitor. But as we continue on here, right now, Colin Clary 50 laps into this run, so I would say pit stops going to be at some point here coming up very soon for that 7. He's definitely within about 10 to 15 laps of that happening, so we'll see when that all plays out. Brandon Minnick looks like he's came down and made his 2nd stop already of the night, so we'll see how these drivers elect to play this out.
Yeah, we're looking at Minnick, and he's all back in 17th position, 2 laps down. So caution would be horrendously terrible for the 81. And his strategy call that he's going for needs this run to go all the way, finishing up this green flag pit stop cycle. The problem is if you're pitting early, puts you in a hole that you just don't know if you can get out of. It's Harold Crow. Watts continuing to go back and forth. The 33 saw an opportunity. He'll dive it down to the inside, trying to get by the 30 of Caden Watts, who, again, Watts is in the awkward position where a lot of drivers, when they made their first pit stop of the day back at lap 20, they just took fuel, or you just didn't pit. The 30 did use a set, so he is currently on his third set of tires, with just 2 to go for the rest of this race.
Makes it tough for sure for him. He's going to have to stretch and make the most of those. As you can see right behind this group, that's going to be Drew Blaze, who right now actually would be for position. So Blaze maybe about to break into the top 10 there as he does go by Watts. This slides Watts back to 11th. And Blaze, with the speed he has, he's going to go right on by Harold Crow. So Drew Blaze making the most after a pit road penalty. Don't put it past him. He could very well still get a top 5 out tonight.
I mean, a blunder for the win, but not a blunder of a good race, and you have to salvage as much as you can, especially with how close the points are. Entering tonight, top 4 in points. Colin Clarkey, Drew Blaze, Austin Mice, and Paul Boomershine, all within 16 points of one another. Blaze, he was 3 points behind Colin Clarkey, who took the points lead after last week's race. Austin Mice didn't have the run that he was hoping for. He is 5 points off of our points leader. And so both the 97 and the 88, both in the mindset of we need to salvage as much as we can. The driver who had the big boost last week, Paul Boomershine, that won at Kansas, currently rides all the way back in 12th position. And Boomershine, this does not look to be one of his stronger mile-and-a-half courses, as he is struggling back in 12th position, as he's one of those drivers that stretched it out the longest of everyone else, as Harold Crow pit road calls for the 33.
Road's getting ready to call for a few drivers definitely on that strategy, and we'll see how they work out. As I think a black flag for Harold Crow. Yep, he's going to get a speeding penalty there. So 33 making the mistake that Drew Blaze did, and that is tough to see because I believe that's going to be a 40-second hold here, and that is a ton of time to be given up on the racetrack.
Especially when you work just battling to try to save this position for 10th place. Now going to be potentially outside of the top 15 when we get back out on track. That helps Paul Boomershine. That puts him a little bit closer to now a chance to get into the top 10 once he tries to make this pass over Watts of the 92. So salvaging, trying to get everything you can. The name of the game here for these longer races, and Crow still has to sit for another 20 to 30 more laps. This is frustrating for himself, but we are just about to get ourselves ready for more pit stops around the corner. About to be hitting as Blaze Mice, they race on. Drew Blaze, 9th position, and he's closing in on Ken Couch. That's under pressure of a couple of lap cars in front of him. So the 88's got some spots. He potentially could be grabbing even more for himself. And if you're Mice, this isn't the worst place to be. You're following a quick driver ahead of you, pulling you along with the draft, and on top of that, he's going to be a spearhead that makes opportunities and gets drivers out of the way.
Definitely will be, as you see even Blaze there coming through on, looks like Ken Couch right there ahead. So yeah, it's going to be another pass for position for the 88 as he's going to look to the outside down into turn number 1, and it's going to cut back across. That's a really classic move. Make him think you're going to go high, make them drive in the corner deep and slide up out of the way, as they get also by the 707 of David Collins, who's 2 laps down. But interesting thing here, Sam, is I think what you're going to see is a lot of these drivers, that window to really kind of get into that strategy that you're hoping to play, I think it's going to be around 140 to 142. So let's see if anybody can stretch it that far out and make it to that number.
And our leader, Colin Clark, he's getting into a little frustration mode for himself. He attempted again to find a way to get by Alan Swan, and Swan fought back, did not want to give up any more time to Nicholas DeFrancesco in the 24 directly ahead of him. So the 85, understanding, yes, you are the leader, but I want to stay as close as I can to the 24, even if it means I got to fight the leader for this position. And got to give credit to the 85. No give up at all. He sees an opportunity to potentially get 4th, and if some more mistakes happen, maybe even get a top 3 podium finish and talk to us at the end of the day. As 126 laps about to be completed, the start of lap 127 underway, and we are just a handful of laps away from the 7 making his call into pit road, and all of this battling might be for nothing as the 85 continues to fight back on the outside groove, and the 7, another lap of almost clear, but just not fully clear yet as they go to 3.
And that's what you don't want to see if you're a 7, is you want to clear fully, because if you go side by side down the straightaway, both of you are just so much slower when you're racing side by side, lads. So Colin able to clear that 85 there in 3 and 4, that's a good sign for him. But I tell you, yeah, that lap there was affected by about 3 to 4 tenths difference than what he's normally been running. So definitely a loss of time when it comes to racing side by side.
Trying to gain as much as you can, but the lap's still clicking away. Still almost to halfway here tonight. It certainly has been a fun one to call, as we still have plenty of racing action here in the Lone Star and iRacing NASCAR Series. Plenty more calls as into pit road. Going to be Greg Watchin-Sky getting the call into pit road. No black flag given. Clean entry for the 5. Pushdown moves up. A lot of these drivers on which time do you want to make your pit stop. And Watchin-Sky, this is an extremely early stop for the 5 machine, as he still had the fuel to go another 8 more laps if he wanted to.
Yeah, definitely an interesting call to come down right here, because, yeah, again, that's not going to fall into the window of what you need to do to make the strategy that I think some of these other drivers are going to play. So he's going to be on the same strategy as Colin Clare, our leader, and we'll see, again, how far can Colin even stretch it? That's going to be the huge question in my book, because if he can get to really that 134 mark, he would be in a good position still to probably be able to fall into that window. But I think he just came with the radio this time, and I think he's going to be coming to pit road.
7's out into pit road. Who's going to give him the space? As 85 gets expected to run high, will do so, and into the pits is our leader, Colin Clary. Don't get caught speeding and will not, as they head into pit road to get service done. The rest of the field, still a couple of more thinking of when do you want to make the final run to pit road. Still a lot of question marks. Have you figured out the calculations for your final 2 stops or 3 stops of the evening? I know for us, we got plenty of more commercial breaks for us. We still got a long evening to go, but it's been a fun one to give you the call here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, it is expected to be more Texas racing. We'll be under green, we'll be under caution. We'll find out as race 12 of the season for the Lone Star Texas 400. We'll be back right after this for more Texas action. Welcome back, and we are under caution, and this might ruin some drivers' strategies of trying to stretch their fuel and tires out a little bit further than most. But tonight, we got incident, and it's between Colin Clary as well as the 81 debut driver of Minnick, who were having issues. And Minnick, who was running his line, just gets ran over by the 7 as fresher tires versus old came clashing through. So we'll leave it up to the audience on what they think. But Zach, I'm curious on your opinions on this incident brings out the caution.
Yeah, it looks like the 81 gets a little loose there to the last 60 to 70% of the corner, and right as soon as he steps out loose, and right when Colin gets there, and Colin's kind of unfortunately not able to get woed up, it seems like, in time, and just completely hits that back bumper. And once that happens, that car goes around. You see already a little sideways, and just that was the final finishing touch, so to say, when that 7 came there and clipped them in. What this has done, though, is opened up some interesting strategies. So we'll take one more last look at this. But, man, I tell you, this has opened up a whole different book of strategy. You're going to get to see, I think, here, right when he starts to step out, right about there, he's already stepping out sideways. And it's actually common here at this corner 3 and 4, very, very bumpy down there, and seemed like those older tires just stepping out as he was trying to keep the speed up.
Yeah, and see Minnick just trying to get this thing straightened out and continue rolling on, but realize gotta lock it down before it goes flying up into the field, and just a little bit of the car on the racing surface with oncoming traffic. And that will bring out our second caution of the day. And with the timing of this caution, allows a few drivers to take a deep breath and say, well, at least I'm on the lead lap. A few drivers expected to take the wave around, get back on the lead lap for themselves. And if we had stayed clean and green, there was a chance we were going to be left with maybe 2 to 3 guys on the lead lap. But this saves a few. One major driver I'm thinking about is Drew Blaze. Zach, able to top off on fuel, was staying on the lead lap to 88. Luckily, with this caution, is getting saved after his speeding on pit road incident they had earlier on back on 75.
I mean, if you're Drew Blaze, you would have thought, man, there's no way I'd have an opportunity to win this race. Well, that opportunity is reemerged, and it's still more than 100 laps to go in this thing. So you got plenty of time if you're that 88. What this has done, though, is set up some interesting strategies here, because some of these drivers were able to take tires because it was about where they needed to pit anyways. But, you had the likes of Austin Bice and Colin Clary. They're just going to come down and take fuel, because that's going to put them on strategy now with everybody in the fuel window.
Fuel window's there, but whose tires will help them on this takeoff and go? As we are officially into the second half of this race, a lot of racing ups and downs. 3 drivers officially out of this race. Jacob D. Booth, 14 laps down, and has been doing everything possible. Needs a little bit more chaos to happen. A couple of more drivers out of this race if he wants to gain more positions for himself. And with the time of this caution, drivers able to get fresh rubber. This is going to give a chance for some big moves. And on top of that, it's going to put it in a position where drivers that did not take tires are going to be in a tricky spot. We might see some more sparks to fly, more drivers in trouble. Better be aware who's got fresh rubber and who's got old, because pace car is off, and we're about to be back to green flag racing for the Lone Star Texas 400. Into the restart zone, we're green as the field gets up to speed. The 7th Great Launch and Izmir are the battling for 2nd and 3rd place. But watch out for the 24, Nicholas DiFrancesco. Fresh tires for the 24. He's expected to get a good launch here and expected to take the lead during this run.
That he is. He'll have a lot fresher here tires than the 7, so the 24 going to look to utilize that. Same for Alan Swan back and forth in that 85 machine. They're going to definitely be looking to utilize any of that they have left in the tank. But here comes the 24 with the run through the front straightaway. Is Colin Clary going to have to look to defend here down in the turn 1.
Defends low, but he's going to have to do everything possible to defend on the run on the outside, but he's got nothing. Fresh tires ultimate cruise control, and it's Nicholas D'Anfrancesco. The man has played second fiddle too many times this season. He wants to take the lead spot, wants the win, and he ultimately is the driver that is on the charge. Next one going to be in line to be making some big passes could be the 85 Alan Swan, who also took tires under this run, and Paul Boomershine in the 92, who runs back in 6th place. Zach, that's another driver where this caution, the reset, bringing all the drivers back together, it's enabled Paul Boomershine, who was just hoping for a top 10. Now he's got a chance to battle for a top 5.
That it does, man. This is definitely swept up everything and kind of changed the whole outlook of this picture for this race. And the other thing it's done too is with where the caution is played out, the timing of where they came to pit road, it is very close on fuel for a one stop to the end of this race. So right now, I think if anything, you're going to want to be able to go about 62 laps on one of these runs here to really enable you to get all the way to the end. We've seen 61 is doable. 62 should be the number I think that you want to do to get to the end. So let's see how these drivers play this out, Sam. It might be a little bit of fuel saving here early, along with that tire saving that could lead to a very good position in the final run.
And if you're not used to being the lead driver of this pack, how do you pace yourself? I think that's the new thing that Nicholas D'Anfrancesco is learning in this 24 team, is how do you want to be aggressively pushing yourself forward to keep this lead position, but not in the later run. Colin Clary willing to follow in suit, doing a pretty good job keeping pace. And now we're starting to see that back and forth between these drivers fighting for an opportunity to get into victory lane. Paul Boomershine with an opportunity here. Drew Blaze in the mix. Dillingham, Gruel, another driver who's trying to find a way to keep it close to the front pack. But everyone outside of our top, I'd say 11, how do they fight forward? I think that's going to be the big question of note to watch out for is Alan Swan. He's been given the green light. The fresh tires are on the move up to 2nd place.
Juan, we saw Hardy fought to stay on the lead lap earlier. Now fighting to try to get into 2nd to go up to the lead, but just lost all the momentum up top. And now he's going to be fighting with Austin Mice and possibly even Greg Watching Sky as the 5 makes a run to the inside.
Watching Sky saw an opportunity, thought he was going to follow suit with Mice, not able to fully commit to the pass just yet. Now Paul Boomershine, who's on those fresh tires, also thinking about working the outer groove to make a pass going forward. Not the case just yet. Trying to get in line, and here's another driver, a contender into the mix. It's the 94 of Austin Gruel that's starting to make their way closer in. Top 9 within 2 seconds. And Zach, this is the closest we've seen all these drivers on top of each other since probably that first 20-lap stint. That was the last time we really saw everyone willing to be this close to each other.
That's for sure, Sam. And also, guess what? Normally we talk about how, you know, when a race goes green, you kind of got to have everything right off the drop of the green flag and kind of put your best foot forward. But when you have a caution like this midpoint in the race, everybody's learned a ton to this point. You know, this has been an endurance race at almost this point. So really, everybody's learned a ton. The rhythm is there. More people are able to keep up. That's why I think we're seeing more of this grouping together.
Where can you place yourself, and how do you make it to the end? And for us, we're going to do a segment we've done it in a while. Let's crank it up, get a sense of what it's like to hear the roars of these engines as you've got the train of drivers back and forth. Where do you want to place yourself? Let's listen in to the roaring engines here at Texas. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Got to experience the noises here from Texas, and also got to watch Eric Dillingham make the move to get by Blaze and getting by Drew Blaze. Certainly a lot of action still throughout the field as we're in that crank it up, talking about how can you get some advantages here, and Eric Dillingham proving to fight to stay on the lead lap. It was well worth it. I also want to say thank you to everyone that's joining with us. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Zach Hall up in the booth calling the action. Running production in the background is Robert Moyer Jr. But Zach, certainly seeing drivers, that fight to stay on the lead lap has been rewarded greatly for some. And on top of that, drivers that took tires, they're being rewarded as well.
They definitely are starting to be rewarded here for sure, as Don Francesco launched out to a 1.2 second lead. So you can see really from second on back to about this 7th position of Austin Gurwell there in 7th from 94. It's kind of stacked up from this group, but I think what's interesting is, you know, who here is kind of playing the possum, so to say, kind of just laying in the weeds here waiting, because again, I think you need to save just a tiny bit of fuel. And I think this first run, the perfect opportunity to do it. You're not going to have cars more stacked up and more in line for, you know, just draft reasons to save fuel than right now. So you got to utilize what you can. We'll see who's going to do it the best, because if you can stretch it a lap, maybe 2 even, farther than the guys ahead of you, it's going to play a huge benefit where you're not going to have to worry about any fuel gains at the end of this race.
And a few drivers of note to keep your eye on. Paul Boomershot in 8th, Austin Gruel in 7th, and you also probably throw in the hat of the number 5 of Greg Watchin-Sky. Those are the 3 that I've got on my radar of watch out, how well can they do. And then if you're up in this lead position, Alan Swan running a little bit higher than probably you want, but if you're up front, you've got the draft. That's helping you also save a little bit more. Into pit road, going to be the 81 Mimic, who's going to be finding himself having to go into pit road, dealing with a little bit more of that extra tire wear on top of he did not pit. Took the wave around, wasn't enough to stay on the lead lap, and ultimately will get 4 tires and fuel and back out on track is the 81 team. As everyone's picking and choosing which gamble are you willing to take. Stay up front, fall back to this second pack. Where do you want to place yourself is the true question of note, as going to be Drew Blaze making the pass over Dillingham and getting this position back.
Smart job for Drew Blaze there. I think he saw that second grouping up to Alan Swan. They're starting to get a little farther ahead. And if you're Drew Blaze, you don't want to let them get too far out there. You want to kind of get within relative range of them and then kind of save fuel off the back of them. So we'll see how that 88, if he can kind of cruise up to the back of this group, or will he have trouble, you know, catching up? That's going to be a huge question, I think, for now, as we ride on board with this 94 machine. Yeah, Austin Gurwell here on the inside, as he's got Eric Dillingham looking to his outside. Gurwell trying to make this pass on Dillingham, but it's so tough sometimes. Once you get side by side, this car's just kind of aerodynamically stalled out.
Yeah, that dirty air, that way the side draft's working. I think these drivers not being able to really move as much as they would like. But Gruel, Dillingham putting on a show as Gruel's able to make the pass. Will he clear his way to the outside? Not going to be the case. He's still getting an opportunity for the 89 on the outside to muscle their way forward. A little bit of an update on the Boomer Shine, watching Sky pairing back there. You know, they're losing touch to Gruel, who's kind of might have hit that number, deciding it's time to take off or go. Boomer Shine, who took tires under that last pit stop, not really keeping up. I just think that's the reward of taking tires and what you're trying to do. I don't understand this not taking tires and still trying to save fuel aspect. See how this might help the 92 later on in this run, but I'm a little concerned for Boomer Shine on the fact that he's not really pushing to keep up with pace, but is hoping to maybe see the strategy fall into his lap.
Definitely so. I mean, even, you know, last week with the win, it kind of did very much work out to his strategy and playing to his hands, of course, with incidents involving drivers. So you never know. I think, again, he's one of those drivers that just stays consistent. He tries to get to the checker flag, and if anything, he lets the other drivers go out there and make the mistakes that open up the door for him. So Boomer Shine, definitely a driver to watch out here as the laps get closer to the end, if he picks that pace up or if it's just going to be a consistent day for this 92.
Boomer Shine continues on watching the action ahead of him, which that's where we're going to move up to second place some of that action that's going on. Colin Clary, Austin Mice, and Alan Swan. It's still close to one another, but it's Mice and Clary that are the two of note that I want to keep my eye on. The 7 and the 97. This is the battling for points leader and third in points, and just one pass could be so crucial, as seeing Clary holding strong to this spot, but Mice is the driver that wants to make the move, wants to take the chance. And I'm just curious, if you are the 97, what gambles are you willing to take right here? Or are you okay with just staying where you're at to try to figure out your fuel strategy and your last pit stop to get by this 7? Because these points are so crucial with just a handful of races left in the season.
That they are really crucial for sure, Sam, and we'll see what the 97 has cooked up in the plan, in the strategy book, because I like what he's doing. You know, he's going to have a good little bit fresher tires. Same for Drew Blaze. Now he's cruised up to him, got past Alan Swan, it looks like now, up to this fourth position for Drew Blaze. But the thing I like that, you know, Austin has done is he's kind of just kept in tow right here with the 7 and let him pull him around the track. If anything, this should have definitely helped him when it comes to that fuel number that I've been talking about. So we'll see what this 97 has planned all out. But again, it's the second and a half of the road to Don Francesco, who's done a good job this run with those fresher tires just to keep the gap at what it is.
Definitely a great spot on where he's at currently. And those upcoming races I was talking about, just a handful left. We got Homestead, Bristol, Nashville Super Speedway, and then the full-length Daytona race that finish off this season, with our top 4 in points being Clary, Blaze, Mice, and Boomershine, all within 16 points. There is still a chance for any one of them to throw away their season and recover it if they see anyone else kind of falter. And that's what we've seen the last couple of weeks that have made this gap that once was so ballooned out get as close as it is currently. Here's going to be Ken Couch in the 08. Started the night off with an EOL after last week's penalties. Currently runs in 10th position. And Couch is kind of just in a linger and wait mode. We'll see how well he can survive for a top 10, as he is trying his best to make it to the end of this race. Seeing a lot of different drivers having their days of greatness and trying to make it to the end. Ken Couch up 2 spots in the points in 16th position. He's got 4 top 10s. Can he get number 5 is going to be the question as we fall back to 15th place. Zach, Harold Crow, I think both of us might have been expecting a little bit more from this 33 team.
Definitely for so. Harold Crow definitely, you know, called out, I think, with the timing of some of those yellows. He's gone back a lap down, so this is tough to see for the 33 team. He's got, you know, the 81 a minute not too far up the road from him, and same for Blackburn. So the opportunities are still there for him to go get the lucky dog, but looking lap time wise right now, about a 10th slower than our lucky dog position driver, Caden Watts. So that's going to put him in a tough position to try to make up that gap.
Yeah, I mean, very tough. And also the fact that they're caught speeding on those last green flag pit stop, that doesn't help either for this 33 team, as we are less than 100 laps to go here tonight. Move up to the driver that's trying to close in for that battle for the lucky dog spot. That's Paul Olson in the 23. And Olson currently trying to run down the 30 of Caden Watts. And if we look at the tire split between the two, a little bit of that advantage goes to Watts, just a 3-lap advantage on tires over Olson that we ride on board with. But in a good sense of the drivers and how they're trying to run this track here at Texas, as we are staying on board with the 23. Is a little bit further back, maybe not running as fast as we'd expect some of those other drivers. Zach, are you seeing anything in this drive that's kind of surprising you, of the drivers that are a lap down and how they can maybe gain a little bit of pace, or they kind of stuck where they're at?
Sometimes it's all about that line. You know, it's really finding the right one that saves the tires, because usually the one that saves the tires the best is the fastest line, just because overall it's the fastest with the tires. Is Old Man Blackburn up the track, and that is definitely a line that you don't see utilized a lot. But I will say I've seen some lately here in the fixed setup series that outside line there in 1 and 2 can work. So, you know, I think that was by mistake there. But if you put that in your bag and kind of figure it out and really utilize it, it can be a useful tool. So we'll see who can utilize different lines. But I think, again, it's all about finding that line that is the most conservative on the tires because it ends up usually being the fastest line.
How can you say but be aggressive? And one driver that has been trying to run down for the lead, Colin Clary, let the gap build up to 1.3 at one time. Now it's down to 0.6 as Nicholas DeFrancesco is being ran down and caught by the rest of the field, and that is not a good sign if you're the 24, because you took the tires, you're taking the gamble of running quick up front, and I'm curious if it's starting to hit the 24 of I've got to save the fuel, or if this is just raw pace from our other contenders on how they have ran down the 24 team.
I think just staying in a group like that group has behind them, those 4 cars, and kind of stay together, utilize the trap. And these cars really like that. And Don Francesco went out there and really utilized the fresher tires, but he's probably overworked them, overheated them, and now these tires behind have kind of evened everything out, been much more, easy to the tires at the beginning of the run, and it's equated to probably just cooler tire temps and less tire pressure buildup that really leads to this. And as they get closer here, same as we watched the back bumper, the draft is just going to pull them in quicker and quicker. So I really think Don Francesco is going to be in big trouble here. The big thing for him, if he does get past, fall into this group and just try to hang on. Do not try to make yourself stand out. Don't try to fight someone too hard. I think if you just stay here and hang on to this group and try to get to that pit stop, you still got an opportunity on that last set of tires.
And this upcoming pit stop's going to be everything. It is crunching the numbers, figuring it out, and who's got a team maybe to help them, who's got the number calculators in their own racing setup. And that's kind of the joys of sim racing, is that some drivers have the ability to have third-party systems that can feed you, fuel numbers, and then you have to kind of mentally think about the math. Other systems will automatically try to generate a pit cycle for you of how to get the best run at the end of the day. And some drivers, they just feel like, hey, not stretching the fuel out, going as far as I can go is the best option. Let's pit sooner than that. And Paul Olson, one of those drivers, wasn't going to be able to stretch it out as far as our front runners for the 23 into pit road, getting service done currently as our top 5 all together. And all are about to be thinking about pit stops here in the next about 10 to 15, even if more laps than that, are going to be the laps from when we see these drivers hit pit road. But Zach, I'm looking at Mice. Mice is probably the driver I am most curious about, because he is just following in the tire tracks of Clary. Hasn't shown a single time where he wants to make a pass. He is sticking with the pace of the 7 all the way through.
I love that patience from this 97. That is exactly what he needs to do. Doesn't need to do anything crazy. You can see the 7. He went for a big run to run the 24 down, and that really hurt him. And now the 97 took his first opportunity to look to the inside, but he's just going to back out, back the corner up, and now slot right back in behind the 7 and be nice and patient, and really let the 7 make a mistake. And if anything, the 7 has been kind of pulling them around on much older tires. You can see Collins getting defensive now because he knows that 97 is really fast, and he's willing to go around at this point.
It looks to be trouble for the 23 Paul Olson, who had to come back into pit road after a mistake for himself and has to do a drive-through penalty for the 23. I hate to see that for himself, but up front, still running on board the 7 with Colin Clary, just a little bit higher, trying to find some clean air, but not giving up space for the 97 in his mirror to go for a pass just yet. But as they're being pulled along, top 5, still no one able to make a move or thinking about a move. The only driver that's really popping in and out is the 7 of Clary, and then Swan every once in a while because he just doesn't feel comfortable on the outside. But here we go, Mice, first attempt to the inside, pass for second, and Clary doesn't even fight it for a second. He gets back in line immediately.
Smart decision from the 7. If he fights that there, I think it just makes everything more tough, because again, it is still much farther that we have to go here. I think if you want to be safe to make it to the end of this race, you're going to need to come down lap 206, 207 at the earliest. So we'll see what these drivers do, Sam, but it's still a little ways to those pit stops, and if anything, this could be the phase that really defines how it sets up for the final phase of the race.
Will you get rewarded for early aggression? Currently, Nicholas DeFrancesco was not rewarded. He moved up to a 1.2 second lead over the rest of the field, got ran down And now is the pace setter as the rest of the field trying to pick and choose where you want to go. How do you want to make a pass? And it is showing with this pairing of 5, it is difficult to set up a pass if someone blocks your entry point. Where do you go? How do you make a pass for yourself? It's going to be tough for a lot of these drivers, but bouncing the outside is Colin trying to make an opportunity to get by the 24, but still, there's just not enough of an opening until now. Colin thought about it, but just backs out so quickly. He had a chance on Dan Francesco, but did not fully commit. Now it's the 24 backing off the exit of the corner, and the 7's in the preferred line heading into turn number 3.
I love the move that 7 did. He stuck his nose there, didn't really commit like you said, Sam. He backed it up, allowed the 24 to overdrive it, and slid up underneath him on the exit. So that was a move that really allowed the 24 look in the mirror. And now with this side-by-side action, how will the 7 make the pass down here in 1 and 2? This is going to be the tough portion of the racetrack to do it. Unless the 24 gets tight, that's going to be the key for the 7 to clear. But the 24 does a good job and is able to stay on the quarter panel, and now down the back straightaway. This is going to set up Clary to be in position to be under threat from behind.
Yeah, thinking about it, but backs off. Mice does not want to force the issue, nor is Blaze. Swan willing to tag along and be a part of this grouping. But we got some new company that's about to be joining in that have already made their pit stop. Harold Crow, Ken Couch, and a few others have already made their pit stop and are about to be heading into this pack with fresh rubber. And you got to think, the mindset of get by all these cars as fast as possible. And now it's the 33 who latches to the end of this group. Ken Couch about to be joining in suit as well. And we do have a question out in chat of 66 laps is the fuel tank, right? 66 laps was the run when we had pace laps of a caution and drivers did not pit or topped off. Drivers here tonight, when we've gone back from a restart and have gone green, there's only 62 laps where they were able to really stretch that out. So we'll see how far they can really go with the fuel, as Harold Crow just showing fresh tires versus old and fresh stuff. You can rip the top and really make some good movement. Ken Couch, on the other hand, stays low, doesn't run the outer groove, and he's going to try to muscle his way on the inside as the 08. Watch out for Couch, as Harold Crow about to make himself go at least one less lap down for himself.
That was almost an opportunity there for the 7 to get to the outside of the 24. The 24 does a good job. Does everything in his power to not allow that, and now the 08 there, Ken Couch making the pass to the inside of the 97. It's kind of jumbled things up as now Blaze has gone around too, and Couch stuck right in the mix of this group.
And it is hurting Mice. Couch has moved to the inside, hurt the 97, allowed the 88 to get the pass done very easily, but Couch once again forcing the issue underneath this lead pack. Not wanting to overcook his stuff is the 08, willing to fight to move forward. Now going to be setting up to go to the inside through 3 and 4. And Couch is clear over second place. And they force the issue once again once they catches up to the leader. Our leader's also got to be careful because in the wall in front of him is David Collins and the 707 staying low, forcing the issue for our leader to think about going high. Not going to be the case. Couch goes on the outside, forces the leader to stay. Almost contact with David, and they continue to race on. But what a moment for lead lap drivers and lap cars.
Wow, and that almost opened up the door for the 88 to go to the 7s inside. But all the 24 are going to go to the wall here. What's up with that?
Nicholas DeFrancesco just got lost in the sauce and into the outside wall for the 24 as he will lose the lead, fall back to third. And DeFrancesco, I don't know what happened, but just drove it into the outside wall. No heavy contact. He just was pancaked with it and never was able to get off that magnet.
Wow, yeah, that left me speechless there as he drove off into the corner against the wall. Yeah, that was wild. I don't know if something went wrong for him there, but luckily he's gathered it up. He's held on to it for the time being, but look at Austin Mice behind. He wants to go to the outside. He knows those top 2 up ahead could drive away in this final few 6 to 7 laps. You got to stay close in this phase, and now side by side to that third position on back, but Colin Clary all going to have that 88 all over him also.
What a power move by the 24. Does not want to get passed by another driver. He really drove it in there into turn number 1 and what looked like an opportunity for Mice to maybe go by. throw it away. He's stuck in fourth. Nicholas DeFrancesco is not done just yet. Does not want to throw away this chance of victory. But this is when things are going to get tough, because this upcoming pit stop here in the next 5 to 10 laps is going to be the crucial moment. Do you have enough fuel to stretch it to the money marker that all of us are looking for? Or are you going to have to pit sooner than later and stretch it on the second run as Blaze to the outside, trying to make the move here on Clary, and Clary stuck to battling. And it's a side-by-side. Where do you go? This is going to give an opportunity for DeFrancesco up the exit turn number 4. But Blaze, Clary, they continue to throttle through the exit of 4, and it continues the show. Our top 5 within 5/10 of one another. You can put a blanket over our top 5 with how close they are, as it's Drew Blaze taking the lead out of turn number 2.
A move from the 88. He's now to the lead. Such a patient run for him. It took almost the whole entire run, 56 laps into this stint before he's got out front, and now trying to open up all the gap on the 7 of Colin Clary before we head to pit road. This is a crucial time to put in your best laps, and we'll see what they can do. And another thing that kind of waits here, that pit stop. Drew Blaze cannot make that same pit mistake we saw earlier, Sam. If he's clean going to pit road, it's going to be a lot better situation.
And when you make a pit stop, if you're a part of this front group, only the driver in 5th, that's where Austin Mice is, can just pit without announcing that they're heading to pit road. Everyone else in this train of 5 has to be vocal. You gotta let your competition know, I'm heading into pit road now, so they can give you the space to hit pit road cleanly without running you over. And that will throw away an opportunity maybe to try to sneak up on a driver if you're going for the undercut. If you're going for the overcut, you continue to stay out. But if you want to pit sooner than later of those that are in the middle of this packing, you got to be vocal, and you got to say it as soon as possible.
You definitely do, Sam. So this is going to get interesting for sure as they get closer and closer. And I tell you what, Blaze has really done a good job to save the tires, because he's starting to kind of open up the gap. If you're Colin Clary, you cannot let him get too far out there. Just do not let him break that draft. That is going to be, I think, the big key for him. Stay within that second margin, but it's up to a half a second now as they go down the back straightaway.
Pick and choose. Where do you want to go? They're also closing up on a little bit of lap traffic. Alan Swan now going to be ripping the top to try to get by the 24. Alan Swan is doing everything right now. But Nicholas DeFrancesco went from leading this race, almost had a 1.5 second gap, to now faltering to 5th. That tire advantage was for nothing. It has thrown away a chance maybe for the 24. Other drivers in the field are making their call that they're going to be heading into pit road, and it's 62 laps for Jacob D. Booth, who makes the call that he's heading to pit road, which gives the number. You got a lap, maybe a lap and a half to go before you have to think about pit stops. If you're up front, maybe you could stretch it a little bit further for the rest of the field, but this is going to be a close call of when you want to pit, because are you stretching the fuel out as far as the fuel will go, or are you looking for that tire advantage?
Have to see here, Sam. This is 61 laps on the fuel tank right here. I think you see a few of them possibly have to come down this time. Probably Don Francesco. Well, I'll probably have to see him come this time. But from the others, I expect them to go a few more laps. I think you've seen some saving, and that definitely, I think, is playing a factor.
And it's going to be Kenneth Blackburn heading into pit road, and he will be right in front of DeFrancesco, and that will blow up the 24.
Oh.
The 24 chances are done as Blackburn just comes to a complete stop in front of the 24, and over a second plus more lost. That could have been the race. A caution now needed for DeFrancesco to get back into the fight. Up front, though, is Clary staying low. He is not allowing anyone to get underneath him. The 7 showing signs that pit road is calling his name. He is heading to pit road. Is Colin Clary his time to maybe steal the lead position? Have the fresh air is underway, and it's the rest of our top 3. When do they pit as Blaze has built up over a second lead over Swan and Mice?
That they have here is see Colin doing the old iRacing official drive all through the boxes, make sure straight as entry as possible. But Drew Blaze out here, he is in an interesting position. Does he stretch it one more lap if he has the ability, or does he come this time? It looks like going to stretch it one more lap. He's going to have the freshest tires of the grouping, and it looks like Swan and Mice continue on also. This is going to give them plenty of fuel. No concerns for them when it comes to the end of this race. Now, I think they need to pit, though, Sam. I don't think you wait too long here. Do not let that 7 get too far out.
Not at all, and I'm looking over to the 92 of Paul Boomershine as well as Austin Gruel. They pitted later than everyone else. They went an extra lap into pit road to make sure they topped off, and they were good to the end. They are over 13 seconds back from this lead pack and not even showing signs of pit road. Drew Blaze stays out for another lap. Same for Swan and Mice. They continue to rip lap after lap. The biggest advantage they can look for as they stay out for another one. And Boomershine, Gruel, this has got to be heartbreaking for the both of them. Alan Swan over the radio, though. The 85 is heading to pit road.
That he is. Swan coming to pit road here. I like that call from him. Do not wait too long here. And, oh, he's going to be in a weird position, though, to do this. And he will do it, but that was a weird position there to go around the outside kind of and let the 97 go by. So see how Swan works out with Colin Clary, because I think that's going to tell us a lot of where these drivers will come out around each other.
And under this green flag run that we're underway with Paul Olson, about 27 laps ago, he called it a night. And just calling it an evening, Eric Dillingham is done for this evening. So that's 2 more spots. I'm looking at Jacob D. Booth. He's already passed Paul Olson, about to pass another one. The 19, trouble on lap 20 of this race. Might get a top 15 finish at the end of this evening with all of the mistakes that the drivers have had. What a showing of mental fortitude this night for the 19 that's currently 21 laps down. We'll see if he's able to get back out there on track or if he calls it a night, because with Dillingham gone, that's another spot being gained. But trouble for Mice. Black flag for the 97.
That it is, Sam. I was just going to say that. 97 too fast on the pit road. And Drew Blaze coming down this time. We'll see. I think he is going to be clean this time for his entry. We'll see where it shakes out with the other drivers. But man, oh man, I tell you what, that is huge for Austin Mice. That is a race, not only a race ruining situation, but also a points situation that he doesn't want to be putting himself in.
He had been salvaging bad nights where he wasn't going to gain a lot of points. He kept it close. Nights where it just blew out of proportion. He saw his competition have issues. Tonight is a night where he's the one that sees his whole evening blow up in his face. And now the 97's leaving pit road. Harold Crow is just going into his box to get service. So a top 10 is still doable for the 97, but the win, throw it out the window. It could be over. Colin Clary, though, Nicholas DeFrancesco, they're on top of one another, battling between each other. And if you're Nicholas DeFrancesco, you got to be thinking, if I didn't have that lap car stopped in front of me, this 24 could have been having the lead right now.
Definitely so. I think he would have had at least a little bit of a gap over this 7 machine, and that would have played an interesting factor for the 7 to have to get around him, but the 7 comes out right directly ahead of him. That works out for him. But Drew Blaze, 3 seconds back, is going to be the driver to watch out for. Swan lost way too much on entry. He's about 5 seconds back when it's all said and done. That just shows you the difference between, you know, getting on the pit road quickly or getting on the pit road a little bit more cautiously. You can give up crucial seconds that come down to really be the outcome of a lot of times these races. So we'll see. Does Blaze have the tires and the advantage to run down this 7 machine? He's going to have a little bit fresher, but it's going to be a very interesting situation to see if he can make up that gap.
Pick and choose when do you want to make your final pit stop for a couple of others, as it looks like there's a handful of drivers that still are going to have to pit before this race is over. Ken Couch, one of those, as well as Brandon Minnick is going to be the last of those. Everyone else, it is take it to the end. And Colin Clary, Nicholas DeFrancesco, the 24 has closed in the gap. It looks like he's in the mindset of let's keep this pace. No signs of going for a big pass just yet. Recognizing there's still a lot of race. And I think for the 24, realizing he does not want to overcook these tires until the very last moment. That last stint might have spooked the 24 just a little bit for himself. And because he's in a waiting game, we're in a waiting game as well. We're waiting on Drew Blaze to get into the action and catch up. Alan Swan also needs to run down this group. Or will it just be the pairing of two? We will find out. We're going to go to our final commercial break. We have plenty of racing action still ahead. 216 laps are completed, about to be 217. As you're watching the Lone Star Texas 400 race, 12 of the season almost done and dusted. But man, this one is building up. Who's taking the win in Texas for the Lone Star NASCAR iRacing Series? We'll find out right after this commercial break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. Race 12 of the schedule here at Texas, the full length, 267 laps being ran so far. We're going to bring back up our graphics here to take a look at how this field has been running at this moment. It certainly has been a wild one, but it's Colin Clary leading the charge up front as he's slowly starting to pull away from Nicholas DeFrancesco. Then 2 seconds back, trying to find a way to slowly gain their positioning is Drew Blaze. Surprising driver inside of the top five. It's got to be Alan Swan back in that fourth place position. And honestly, you got to give credit to Alan. He was keeping up with the lead pack, but no longer is he able to sit there. And then back in fifth position, we find Paul Boomershine, which is, Zach, I feel like this is the driver that we've all kind of been wondering, how is he going to get up front at the end of the day? And once again, he's in the top five when we're coming to the closing margins of this race.
Again, yeah, I mean, we talked about him earlier. He was about 9th, 10th, majority of the night. And what do you know? Closing laps, he's right there. So great job for Paul Boomershine. But Greg, watch this guy going to be back here in the sixth position in that 5 machine. It looks like he's going to also have that 94 Austin Gruelle not too far behind right there in the mirror, as that's the 94 there in the 7th spot. And then the next driver we're going to drop to is that last corner lead lap. It's going to be this 97. It's going to be the heartbreak probably of the night. Sped on the pit road. This 97 going to be in the 8th position for the time being. He's going to be looking to possibly try to hope that something plays out for him, but it looks like 8th could be the best his night could be. Is back tonight, it's going to be the 08 of Ken Couch. He's seen some time tonight. He's flew up through the field with some fresher tires. He's going to be 2 laps down back here in the 9th position. And back to 10th to round out our top 10 here. It's going to be the 155 of Kenneth Blackburn, also 2 laps down.
And in 11th, Caden Watts, who started the night off with taking tires when I don't think he really meant to. Has been trying to do a good job salvaging on the tire wear and is up to 11th position. Newcomer back in 12th place is the 81 of Brandon Minnick, who was a driver that we saw be willing to be aggressive, willing to block, make some big moves, willing to fight for every position. But the 81 has now found himself with too many penalties, spun around, just off strategy, is back in 12th place. Back in 13th positions, the 33 of Harold Crow. And Harold's been having kind of an off night, not his usual evening of where do you place yourself. And this is kind of one of those nights where you just go back and forth, waiting on how do you want to push forward or not. Then in 14th is surviving a lot of chaos is the 707 of David Collins. And then finishing out those that are out on track is Jacob D. Booth in 15th. Certainly a night of where could they have been, but up front, a changing of guards for second place. Drew Blaze is caught and ran down. Nicholas DeFrancesco is now over a second half back, but that means Colin Clary, competition starting to run it down. Better be careful, as here they come. It's the 88 of Drew Blaze catching up.
Wow, he has turned up the wick here, Sam, because he was 2 seconds back about 5-6 laps ago. It's already down to 1.2, and you saw he gained a ton down there off of the turn number 4, but lost a lot down there in 1 and 2. So maybe made a little mistake down there in 1 and 2. We'll see if he can get back on that groove. And the thing is, once he breaks within a second, he's going to really start to get a nice little toe and really try to pull up to this 7 machine.
It really has. I mean, this is going to be a rundown to the end, but is there enough time between Colin Clary and Drew Blaze, continuing to fight back and forth? These two have had their battles throughout this season, and currently this could be the race, the defining race for Colin to set himself up to go for this championship, or can Drew Blaze reassert himself as the driver that has won everything in the past for the Lone Star, and everything Lone Star. This 88 has found his way into victory lane, winning championships, and he wants to do it once again in this first Gen 6 series. Less than a second, and here we go. Drew Blaze catching up to Colin.
He's really starting to gain a good bit now. He's going to get the draft here from Caden Watts. And we'll see, does Watts go to the bottom? It looks like he's going to run someone on the bottom. That's going to take away a little bit of air there from this 88 like he doesn't want, but he's going to now try to go by. The big thing, though, side by side here down the front straightaway, he needs to clear into 30. great job just slowing up, letting that 88 clear. No reason to hold him back. Let these leaders fight it out to the end of this race. And if you're Drew Blaze, you're going to be coming down here to complete lap 246 here. You're going to have 21 laps still to get this job done.
As the laps continue to tick away, it's Blaze showing the patience was key. Was it worth fighting or was it worth waiting? Both drivers pitting at similar times. Was DeFrancesco and Clary, but it was the waiting factor of staying out longer, having the fresher tires. Even with having fresher tires, still wasn't willing to use up all this stuff immediately. And Blaze is showing out once again these long run scenarios that he is the driver to beat. But if a caution comes out, it gets set is all ablaze, mainly because who's got tires left? We were only given a total of 5 sets to work with. 4 were in pit road. You started the race off with 1. And I think everyone's practically used every set they've got. So if a caution came out, Blaze would be in the best optimal position, but he may not need a caution. The 88 is ran down the 7 in less than 20 laps to go. Drew Blaze is here. The 88 won a similar way back at Pocono a few weeks ago. And here tonight, he's finding an opportunity to run down and catch up to the 7. Zach, this is a chance. Do you make the pass now or continue to be patient if you're Blaze?
We'll see how he sets this up. I think he's going to be somewhat patient, but he's got a great run out of 2. And right here, going to be able to cut to the inside here down the back straightaway. Just going to think opposite of it for now. Now going to look to the inside. Clary looks to cover it off, and for the time being, Blaze is going to have to back out of the position, but the 7 slides up, gives the air to the 88, and he should be to the inside here.
Blaze, Clary, side by side, and the 88 in the better position to go for a dive bomb move. Pass made for the lead position, and Clary's not even going to defend it. The 7 backs off. He gets back in line, and it's Drew Blaze with a 5-lap advantage on tires, showing the speed here late. 18 laps to go. For so long, this 88 team was just settled, willing to wait in 3rd, 4th position, watching the pack duel for the lead. And finally here late, it's the 88 taking the complete control of this evening. But Clary's willing to fight back, get right to the back bumper.
This is going to be crucial. How can he fight back to this 88, Sam? That is going to be the #1 thing. And down in 1 and 2, tries a little bit of a different line. That was really not it. So we'll see down here in 3 and 4 if he elects to go right back to the bottom, try to reel this 88 back in, because you cannot let him open up enough gap to get out of that draft. Once that happens, it puts the 88 in the clear zone. But for now, you can see 3 and 4, that draft just pulls that second car along, and he's able to close back in. But we'll see now as he goes back to the bottom in 1 and 2, can he follow in the dirty, turbulent air of that 88?
16 laps to go, already on a disadvantage just based off of tire wear on the laps that have been ran on your set of tires. But is there a way for Clary to find some magic, find a little bit of something to get himself back into victory lane? This 7 machine has dominated when we came to these mile-and-a-half tracks. He has won 75% of the races that he shows up for. He's won 3 of the 4 that he's been. Can he get his 4 out of 5 here tonight? Or will Drew Blaze finally emerge in the mile-and-a-half tracks where he's shown speed, but the luck wasn't there? And tonight, it is certainly Blaze. 15 laps to go, and he is starting to chip away ever so slightly. It continues to grow lap after lap. Drew Blaze, 14 laps to go, and it's 4/10 the difference between the 88 and the 7.
Let's see what Blaze can do. He cannot get out here out front now and just overdrive the car. He needs to get out front, hit his marks the same way he did to get up here, and utilize that fresh air. And I can tell you, Clary definitely feeling the brunt of that, because right there down the back straightaway, even almost into the wall off of 2, and just really stuck in that dirty, turbulent air, like I said. And we'll see, though, can he formulate something up here off of 4? Or it looks like the gap about a half a second now as it starts to close in with the draft up ahead.
Half a second, and it looks like it might be too far for Colin Clary to run down. He's attempting to go into turns 1 and 2 a little bit more aggressive, willing to use more of that front right tire, but it's hurting off the exit, and it's all Blaze. It would accelerate so much quicker in a lot of takeoff and go, and it's back up to over a half a second. The difference between the 88 and the 7 as we're about to cross the line and make it 12 to go. The next closest battle that's happening on track is the battle for 6th place. So you got Wachensky and Gruel going back and forth, and Gruel looks like he might have a chance to take another position for the 94. But the battle for the lead, it could be over and done unless we got some lap traffic to change some fates. And currently that could be the case as Blackburn is the driver they're starting to run down.
Blackburn about 3/10 slower than these drivers ahead of him. So he is going to be, slower than them, but it's not by a crazy, unconsiderable margin. What I will say is for the time being right now, Blaze is going to enjoy that draft down the straightaways and this clean air in the corners. He's just going to hope to really get by this 155 down here into 3 and 4, because that is going to be critical right now for him. And if anything, just every lap car do the same thing. And if he can get the draft off him, it's actually going to be a benefit more than a detriment, really.
And Blackburn's going to be hurting the exit of the 7 of Clary. Clary has to back off, and almost contact made between the two, and over a 10th and a half lost just because the exit of turn number 4. And Blaze continues to scoot forward, and Colin, it continues to snowball out of control as he almost hits the wall, and now is going to be under pressure of Blackburn. Think about getting underneath the 7. Thinks otherwise, and that hurts the entry. Most likely will hurt the exit, and Colin's just throwing it away. It's over a second now, the difference between first and second.
And look at the momentum loss. You lose momentum down the back straightaway, that hurts you down into 3 and 4. It hurts you all the way back to turn number 1 because you just almost are wide open through that whole section. So it's almost like a straightaway. So if you lose momentum, you're just giving up critical time. And right now, over a second gap, Drew Blaze now in the driver's seat and in a much more comfortable position he's going to feel without having that draft given to that 7 from behind.
Where do you place yourself? If you're further on back, no one is close for a change of position or guard. It is now 9 laps to go. Make it 8 for Drew Blaze and the 88 team, who entered into tonight, was second in points by 3 points over Colin Clary. And with the running position, the bonus points, they might be equal heading into Homestead next week. The second to the last full-length race we're going to have this season here at Texas. We've had a couple of Crown Jewel events as the field has had so many ups and downs. Had a full race at the old 2008 race at Atlanta. Colin Clary won that evening, and then had the full-length race, almost full-length race at Charlotte. That one went to Mike Fahey. We haven't seen Mike Fahey since he got that win. That 45 was fun to watch, and here tonight, it looks to be all Blaze. But Zach, we know all too well, a late caution always looming with lap cars and lead lap machines racing around. But you got to feel bad for Nicholas DeFrancesco. A lot of what ifs maybe could have been thrown in his hat as well with the fresh tires and how he utilized it on the previous stint that we had 4 pit stops.
Completely agree. Yeah, this is not going to end up being a race winning night for Don Francesco, but still, if he can bring this home in third, I think he'll still be somewhat happy and should be on pace to do that. I think the biggest thing for him, just make sure your fuel number is good. He pitted right at the edge of the window, so I think really for him, he just needs to make sure he can get all the way to that checker flag, and a podium finish should be in the books for him with Alan Swan about 6 seconds behind even. So this is looking like a very good finish for this 24 team.
One moment in time in the first half of this race before we had our lap 142 caution, there was a question of if Colin Clary was going to win this race, and there would only be 2, maybe 3 guys on the lead lap. Currently, with that pass just being made by Drew Blaze, 5 drivers are on the lead lap. Paul Boomershine, the next on the docket to go a lap down. We might be only having 4 drivers at the end of this race on the lead lap, and it's Drew Blaze leading this thing. And what makes that even more shocking, more surprising than most, back at lap 20, it was Drew Blaze that ran into the back bumper of Joseph Augusta. That was the lap car that got in the way of the field. that took a lot of front end damage. Then a few laps after that, once they went back to green flag racing, grabbed a little bit of extra damage on the side. Then on lap 75, when heading into pit road, got caught speeding and had to sit in pit road for an extra 40 laps. Just showing you can have early struggles. The first 80 laps of this race were probably the worst Drew Blaze could have had, but Zach, it's 3 laps to go for a driver to recover from being in the first caution of the day to maybe the victory lane.
I mean, what an up and down night in general. I mean, like you said, involved in that first caution. Then he sped on the pit road, had to get the 40-second hold. I mean, at that point, we weren't even talking about, you know, a race win. We were like, man, if he could salvage his night and get a top 10, top 5 out of this, he'd be very happy. But he's going to end up being a race winner here, possibly, if this thing stays green for the time being.
So many opportunities and chances to get into victory lane. Drew Blaze, Austin Mice tied for second in most wins this season with 2. We look up to the flag stand. White flag is in hand with Barney the flag man, and we have an official full-length race. 266 laps complete, and Drew Blaze on the final run to head to victory lane.
What a drive for this guy it's been tonight. He has been, I mean, just one to rebound, and again, showing his long run pace is what has propelled him to this position.
From caution to black flag to now look up to the grandstands. They all arise for the 88 of Drew Blaze. You, sir, recovered and fought back and enjoyed victory lane for the 3rd time this season. Drew Blaze wins here at the Texas 400.
What a job, man. That is awesome from him. He had a turbulent night. I tell you, as a driver, when you can succeed after all of that, Sam, you're going to be not only worn out mentally and like physically with how long this race is, but just so overjoyed about how you fought through that.
I mean, he certainly had a lot of ups and downs. I think for Colin Clare, this is going to be a brutal one for you to accept, because for most of this race, it was all the 7. He was a little bit off strategy here or there, but at the end of the day, he was the one who decided to pit sooner than the 88, and that strategy just was not the case. You needed the fresh tires at the end of the day, and that's what gives this 88 team the victory. Following in a similar strategy as Colin was Nicholas DeFrancesco. You know, this is going to hurt for Austin Mice, who finishes 8th, but we will be back. We got plenty of more action here tonight. We got the post-race show. We'll talk to our victor, being Drew Blaze in the 88, as well as Colin Clare and Nicholas DeFrancesco when we come back. And as well, get you prepared. We got Homestead next week. I mean, in 2 weeks. June 1st will be the next race that we have. So if you're taking off now, enjoy yourself. We'll see you June 1st. If you're not, we'll see you in a few. We got the post-race show just after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show of the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. It was a long one for the drivers, a long one for us of the booth, but let's head down to the driver that had one of the longer evenings, but gets rewarded with victory. We have Drew Blaze with us, and Drew, I mean, we look at the roller coaster of an evening that any driver could have had. I don't think anyone probably could beat what you had happen to you, what was going on. And then at the end of the day, you're in victory lane. How are you feeling after 267 laps being completed?
Yeah, I'm glad it's over. I did not think we had a shot here after the mishap on pit road, and then we just got so far behind. I thought we were kind of dead in the water there. So I don't even know what to think. But I got the lucky dog there, and it kind of just came back around to me. I saved my stuff, and it seemed like I could save my stuff a little bit better than the other guys, and it kind of just worked out.
Definitely did seem to work out, Drew. Congrats, man, on the win. So good on the long runs there. You said, you felt like you were able to save your stuff a little better. What do you think the keys were to that there once you got that caution back on the lead lap and stuff?
Yeah, just first off, saving fuel and making sure I could, be within the pit window, and I stretched my fuel a little longer so I could have a little bit better tires there at the end, and then just using the brakes correctly. Going into turn one here, it's very tricky, and if you overdrive even a little bit, you're just gonna start burning your right front up. So just kind of managing. I was keeping an eye on my tires the entire race, and just seeing where I was at, and seeing how hard I could push it.
I mean, Drew, we got we got 4 more races left in the season. Really looking like it's you, Colin, and also Austin Meister expected to be the 3. Paul is also still in the fight based on where he's at. What's your mentality in these final 4 races with the 4 of you still within a chance of winning this championship?
I think it's just kind of like my race went here. There's going to be ups and downs, but we try to make the best out of it, and then keep fighting every inch, and just not giving up. And I easily could have taken that penalty there, and been 2 laps down, and just kind of stuck it to myself there and stayed in the back. But I decided to race hard and be strategic, and it just things tend to work out when I do that. So just be as smart as possible and get as many points as possible.
Sounds good. Well, before we let you go, Drew, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
Yeah, just my whole team here, man. Lonestar Racing, love these guys, greatest team. I gotta thank Justin and Brandon for popping in today. He's been going through some health stuff, and good to see him back out here on the track. And thank you guys for putting on the broadcast, and all of our drivers, of course. And everybody put on a great show once again.
Well, that will be your winner here tonight. 3rd time this season, the 88 of Drew Blaze. Drew, enjoy this one, and good luck next week at Homestead.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
As we move from victory lane, we go down to 2nd place to talk to Colin Clarke and get his thoughts on tonight. Dominated the first half of this race. Thought maybe there was a chance for victory, but it just coming up a little bit shy there at the end. Colin, it's Sam and Zach up at the booth. You got us?
Yes, sir. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Well, the 267 laps, full-length race. You looked good for majority of it. How are you feeling, though, coming away 2nd at the end of the day?
Pretty garbage, to be honest. I just destroyed my right front in the second half for whatever reason. Overdriving entry, I'm not sure. I thought I was managing, but not as good as Drew. He had the better of me.
Definitely a tough finish there for you, Colin. But, what is the things that really kind of make it tough to, pace yourself when you're the leader out there, kind of not really having someone in front of you, I guess, to say pace yourself off of?
It's really just like you kind of have to build somewhat of a gap, or else they're just going to draft off of you because there's no horsepower. So you need at least somewhat of a gap so that when the tires do wear, you can pull away. But I guess I didn't balance that properly.
Well, Colin, you are going to be close on points between yourself and Drew and Mice and Boomer Shine heading into Homestead next week. We got 4 more races left on the schedule. What's your confidence level with the fact that we've got Homestead, Bristol, Nashville Super Speedway, and Daytona, the final 4 races?
Medium level confidence, we'll say. I feel good about Homestead, but I'm not sure about the other two. I'm not the best at the concrete tracks.
Well, we cannot wait to see how you perform in these upcoming races to go hunt for that championship. But Colin, before we let you go, the floor's now yours for any other shout outs.
Shout out Drew, shout out Justin as always, and thank you guys as well.
Well, thank you for giving us a show to call. That'll be the 7 of Colin. Enjoy this one, Colin, of a top 3 finish. And good luck next week at Homestead.
Have a good night, guys.
As we will move down to 3rd place to go talk to the 24 team, who had a couple of opportunities to be up front with staying up there, but will ultimately come away 3rd here tonight of Nicholas DeFrancesco. And Nicholas, certainly a lot of chances to run up front here this evening. You were leading at one moment in time, but 3rd place at the end of the day. How are you feeling after completing a full-length Texas race?
Well, I'm a little wore out, but that's to be expected. So other than that, not too bad. Kind of bummed about my run there towards the end. We were in position to win the race or even finish better than 3rd or anyway. I just got to learn how to manage my tires better apparently, because after about 30 laps, they just drove away from me. And I figured me and Colin would have been at least battling for 2nd there at some point, but guess not.
Yeah, Nicholas, I tell you what, man, it was a valiant effort tonight, coming home 3rd for yourself. So congrats on that, man. I know you wanted to fight for that win. We saw coming to pit road there a little bit of trouble with the lap car ahead. Do you think that kind of hurt you a little bit with time also getting on the pit road?
The lap car didn't really affect me too much, although I did have to avoid him because I was not expecting him to stop coming or stop their entrance. But he didn't really affect me too much. I was able to avoid him pretty easily.
Well, Nicholas, a little bit of a different question for you. I know that this is a full length 267 laps compared to the traditional 175 laps that we do. Are you a fan of these longer races, or are you more of a fan of those shorter races that we have usually?
Well, if that race was 175 laps, we would have won. I would have won the race. But yeah, if they're longer, they're longer. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm just here to have fun and do the best I can and try to bring home a W every week.
That sounds good. Well, Nicholas, before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
I want to thank you guys for broadcasting the race for us, and hopefully we gave you guys a show at home or wherever you guys are watching from. Justin and DadBod.Studios for sponsor, and all the other sponsors that sponsor us every week for the races and for whatever else they sponsor us for. And that's pretty much it.
Well, we hope for you to continue on these great finishes for yourself, Nicholas. Congratulations on a top 3 run, and good luck next week at Homestead.
Thank you. You're gonna need it. You gotta figure something out to beat those guys.
Absolutely. As that will finish up our interviews here tonight, we move on over to our unofficial results. We got to see a lot of drivers with their ups and downs this evening, but it was Drew Blaze being involved with the first caution of the day, but ultimately victory after completing these 267 laps. Colin McClary going to take 2nd with Nicholas DeFrancesco in 3rd. Alan Swan, what a finish for the 85. He'll take 4th here tonight with Paul Boomershine after his victory last week. Top 5 is nice to have, but when your competition that you're trying to run down finish ahead of you, not the best feeling in the world. 6 will be the 5 of Greg Watchinsky, who also was involved with that first incident of the day. And Austin Gruel, want to give credit to the 94 for another top 10 finish for himself. Austin Mice, if he didn't have the speeding penalty, the what ifs for the 92 probably could have been battling for that win as well, but instead he'll take an 8th place finish. Ken Couch started this evening with a end of the line penalty, but will take 9th with Kenneth Blackburn finishing out our top 10 here this evening. And also want to give kudos to Nicholas DeFrancesco for getting the most positions gained from their qualifying position, taking that 4th place spot up 13 positions. But Zach, look at the rest of the field. certainly not one that some of these guys wanted to have for themselves.
Definitely a tough night for some of these guys. Shout out to Brandon Minnick making his first start here tonight, so that's cool to see him out there. Definitely also good run. Good runs were going for a few of these guys. Harold Crow and Caden Watts, they were in the top 10 at some points, but unfortunately stuff just seemed to unravel there late for them in the going. So it was a wild night, 267 laps, total endurance race. And man, I tell you, these guys put on a show coming down to the end as Drew Blaze was able to get it done.
He certainly did. And if you want to see more racing action from us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we got you covered. It's the preseason race 2 of 3 this Thursday on the 802 Elite Next Gen Series here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Don't want to miss it. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Got to be when we are live. Those guys have been exciting to watch after their first preseason race at Dover. They had Charlotte. Should be a little bit more of close racing action. But for us here this evening, lots of ups, lots of downs. And Zach, any final thoughts before we get ourselves out of here?
Well, shout out to Drew Blaze. Great rebound for him, man. I know how that is as a driver to make those mistakes. It's tough to rebound from. So huge shout out to him for having the mental capacity and fortitude to do that. And man, shout out to also the Lonestar Racing League here. It has been fun to call, and we're going to see how the rest of the season plays out after we come back from this off week.
We will be back June 1st for Homestead Racing action with the Gen6 car, but to salvage our plate, we'll have that 802 series to watch out for. But for tonight, it's been a pleasure to give you the call of the Lonestar Texas 400 for race 12 of the season. For myself, Sam Dyer, for Zach Hall, and for Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else from Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining with us on your Monday night or rewatching whenever you do. You got to see the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series and Drew Blaze grabbing his third win of the season in dramatic fashion. But for us, we'll be back in 2 weeks. June 1st for Homestead is when we continue on with our Lonestar NASCAR journey on who will take the crown. Is it Colin Clairhey, Drew Blaze, Austin Mice, or Paul Boomershine? Time will tell when we come back to racing action. But if you can't wait until then, we'll see you Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting to watch the 802 Elite Next Gen Series for our next Freaky Fast broadcast.
I was standing, staying still, never said what I feel. And every time I took the blame, carried all this quiet shame. Cause all the pressure in my chest, I've gotta fight to catch my breath. When every step still feels the same, trying not to break. Where do I go from here? Maybe I'll disappear. If I don't try, I'll never know. I'm waiting on you. Where do I go from here? There will be no more tears. Kill the doubt, feed the fire, hear the voice inside. It's my turn this time. They took a shot, now I want mine. You fall, I rise, I take the wheel. So this is how it feels. Where do I go from here? Maybe I'll disappear. If I don't try,